It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to open the meeting. And first thing we always do is read the agenda. At 7, we have a community input, and I'm going to remind everybody about the rules again. 1 minute limit. You have to identify yourself with your address if you haven't identified yourself beforehand, before the meeting. Appointments and resignations, 7:15. We will have Transfer Station Action Committee at 7:45, budget discussion. 9:15, unspent bond proceeds reappropriation vote. 9:20, a TA report. 9:35, minutes and warrants. 9:40, liaison reports. 9:45, cemetery deeds. And at 9:50, another session of community input. So is there anybody in the room that wants to offer community input? No. Anybody online? I don't think I see any. I don't know who that person is on the left.
Yeah. Hi, Kate. This is John Lavery.
Hi, John.
Hi. I have comments, but sorry, my camera's messed up.
Well, we all got your email, and we got your latest one as well, and that has been circulated to the board. And it will be put, didn't come in time for to be included in the packet, but it will be included in the minutes.
Okay, I think the way you told me this works is that during the public comment section of the budget, you would ask people that if they wanted to speak.
I will, absolutely, yes. I will do that as well.
Okay, I'm out of here then. I mean, I'll shut up.
Come back
That's it.
later.
Okay, see you later. Can we get the volume of that? Oh, okay. Thank you. I don't know, we don't have anybody talking now, so.
I can
All right.
talk if you want to for a second. Is that okay?
No, well, I think the problem, John, is on our end.
Okay,
You're
you want me
very-
to do like
the-
a 1, 2, 3 test?
The people on Zoom are faint when they speak in the Zoom.
Hi, David.
Hello.
Okay, we're going to move along to appointments.
Just don't
and-
like you, John.
Would you like me to make a motion?
That is not a public statement.
Yes,
Strike that from the minutes.
okay, yes.
I value his input.
We are at our 7:05 appointments and resignations portion of our agenda, and Barney has offered to make the motions.
I would make a motion to move to appoint Billy Joe Kelly. Guess we're not doing street address at the moment.
Yeah.
As a member of the Youth Commission, term to end June 30th, 2026.
Okay, so normally we did do that, and that would be normally we have that as.
It is, it's
have a-
Greystone Lane.
Sorry, just streets? And we should.
148 Greystone Lane.
Okay, Greystone, and it's,
So Billy
And-
Joe Kelly, 148 Greystone Lane, as a member of the Youth Commission, a term to end June 30th, 2026. Do you want me to make the second one as well?
Sure.
And move to appoint Brooke McIntosh,
303 Russell Street.
thank you, 303 Rutland Street.
Russell.
Russell, sorry. Russell Street, as a member of the Youth Commission with a term to end June 30th, 2026.
Okay. I believe, there was a thing from Peggy that she actually checks that, and so maybe we don't need to have those anymore.
Oh, the
on our-
address?
In our
I see.
motions. I'm just,
Uh-huh.
we should
Speculating.
probably
Confirm
straighten out
that.
that kink, but,
Yeah.
we'll-
That's fine.
okay. There was a motion, a second. Any comments, questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that was unanimous. Thank you. 7:15, boy, we're moving, trucking here. Transfer Station Action Committee. Well, come on down.
Brian, could you bring up the slides?
Yes.
Jack.
We are a few minutes
We're
early.
a
I
few
don't know
minutes
if
early, and
we thought other people were joining us.
I actually know of one person who told me at least he was going to come at 7:15.
Okay.
So,
Let us do some cemetery deeds then.
sorry.
No problem.
That's all right, you don't have to move. Cemetery deeds. Is there a motion to transfer land in the public burial ground of the Green Cemetery, described as deed 817, lot D 415, graves 1, 2, and 3 to Karen James Rumor, who was a former resident?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to pass these down for signature. Does anybody need a pen, or shall I pass a pen with it?
Good. I got the pen.
You have a pen.
And I'll give mine.
Usually it's Nathan that needs one. So you might have to pass your pen down.
That's fine.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Minutes, maybe we could do one of them, at least one of the minutes, or we'll do the minutes?
Sure.
Do the,
Well, there are more than one.
There's the
I'm
we
sorry.
have February
So
26th
you get-
and March 12th. Do you want
Yes.
to do them
Thank you.
separately?
yes, because
Okay.
February 26th, there
The
was
land use
a
summit.
redo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, that was the land use summit. And then there's a third set of minutes, too, which isn't on the motion, but,
Right.
yeah. So I can move that the select board approve the meeting minutes as presented or amended for February 26, 2024, which was the land use summit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Were there any emendations? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous.
And I'll move that we approve the select board meeting minutes for March 12th, 2024.
So is that the second set or the first set?
That's the second one in the packet, and then we had a third set that came out this
Separate.
afternoon, yeah,
Right.
separately, or yesterday morning? Can't remember when they
The
came.
ones that you had fixed.
You had
Yes,
amended.
okay. So.
So this is for
this
the
is
March 12th. I guess that would have been our last meeting, yeah, our last meeting.
So, Barney, you just made the
I
motion.
just made the motion,
And-
yep.
David, did you second that?
I did, I'll second.
Okay.
And then these are for signing.
So I do have a comment on that one.
Oh, you did, okay.
March 12th, yeah, okay. I think it's fine. Gretchen does a great job. It's a little, when the Mike Hanauer thing, it's like all this string of stuff, and I'll meet you for lunch. It's like a lot of stuff in there.
Wait, you're doing it for lunch, is that what you said?
No, I mean,
it's
what's
got his-
in the minutes is
it's
like
got
a whole
his-
string of email stuff.
Right,
about-
email sent.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, for
Oh,
lunch,
those
and
are-
it's, I think, could
Oh, I
we make
see.
it smaller, like just to the thing he wants to say, because,
Well, I know, but we have been including written comments in the minutes. Maybe it should be not included like that, it should be appended at the end, just
yeah, I
with
mean, it's
a,
a whole string of stuff. It's like you took the whole
Yes.
email and the whole
Yes.
thing, but
Right.
really, the thing he wants to say is up
Oh,
at the
I see,
front.
rather than
It's,
copying the
No, we'll have lunch
entire-
together, yeah, we'll do that. It's like those back and forth.
Right.
Instead of
So-
doing the whole email.
right. So what we can ask Gretchen to do is to just say, see, attachment, that
Okay.
the,
Well, do you feel like we, in that case, not this one particularly, but that if somebody sent, because the thing about email is you got like all
Yes.
this history.
yeah,
Do we feel the need in complete reporting to always put the entire thing, even when we know what they really mean is the most recent interchange? Because people sloppily don't cut off.
Right, they
We all
forward
do it, I
the
do it
whole
too.
thing, or
Before
reply
you're just too
all,
lazy,
yeah.
you just reply all, and then it's got everything here.
Yeah.
As a practice, could we take that editorial privilege, or do you feel we need to, if they have it in the whole string, we gotta put the whole string?
I think it would really boil down to what is the content of that whole string, right? I mean, if it's just, oh, we might have coffee.
Yeah.
And then who makes the determination?
yeah.
I mean, I don't have a position, I'm just pointing out that you lose the thread of what he's trying to say, because there's so much stuff in
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just hard to figure out Where do we draw the line?
I have another point relative to that, or related to that. On the ZBA, we used to always take comment prior to the meetings, and if there's written comment, it went into our packages or
Right.
whatever. And I actually think that's a really good practice, because then, if the person can't speak or whatever, and you could have a cutoff time, you could say within 48 hours or whatever, up to that point, we published, or we put those in our packages so that we all see them and the public sees them too, rather than just putting them in the
But we
minutes
do that, don't
afterwards.
we? Isn't that what we do? Like,
We have
Well, we haven't been. I'm thinking of, and specifically, there's one that came out this week with John Lavery, and, putting stuff like that in, I think is helpful, because it ensures that everyone sees
John wrote a
it
specific
to an issue.
to an issue or set of issues, actually, and then Ryan said he may not show up, he's actually here, but despite our attempts to mute him,
That's a joke, John.
it's a joke, John. And I lost the train. So I thought in your note, you said, I'm gonna put it in its entirety into the packet, right?
Into the minutes.
Into the minutes, so it would show up as, okay, is it in the packet? Can the public see it, or only when the minutes come out?
Only when the minutes come out.
So it's kind of after the fact. I just like it because I want to make sure that everyone on the select board and everyone in the public who's interested in our packet sees what the
So
public is
when would you like to
saying.
see them? When the minutes come out,
No,
or?
when the packet comes
would
out.
be like
but
Friday.
anything Friday, I mean, you have a
have to
cutoff.
get
No, I
it in
agree.
ahead of time.
Anything that
Right.
should
No,
go
I agree.
in the packet, and maybe it's its own section, just like public comment or
Okay,
whatever.
Well,
okay.
also, though, anything that we discuss or is presented here tonight or in any meeting, whether it was in the packet or not, needs to be attached to.
Exactly.
In the minutes.
Okay, so in this case, I mean, I don't really care, it's just stylistically, it actually works to their detriment, or Mike's detriment, because there's extra noise in there that's not really relevant. So I don't care, but maybe Kate's compromise is the best, that these things should be appended.
It also sounds like we're in agreement that if we could have them in time to go out in the packet, that would be a good thing as well. They go
For
out in the
public
packet.
comments.
Yeah, anybody
Yeah,
that sent
written
any
comments.
information in,
But he actually didn't, right?
If
He
if
produced
we're
it
going,
at the
if we're
time.
going to discuss it, then I think it should go in the packet.
Right, but if
And
somebody
This is a
sends,
case where we've just discussed it, so.
well, now it's in. Yeah.
So now we have to, but I think if somebody just emails us something before, it doesn't necessarily have to go
no,
in the
sorry, I meant
packet.
relevant to the agenda.
Right, it's something that,
Related to the agenda.
yeah,
That-
something
that-
we're going to, if we're going to discuss what is sent, then it should go in the packet.
Okay, so I'm hearing,
So there's different type of correspondence you
Yeah.
receive. So there's a lot of people who want to get on the agenda. There's a lot of people who have something to tell you, and there's some people that want to do public input. The public input, like, I want this to be part of the record, is rare and usually comes to you during the meeting.
right,
So we're trying to balance sending it to you. There's nothing wrong with putting it in the packet. It's just I'm not sure that was the intent of the people who sent it necessarily. A lot of the times they're just trying to get on the agenda for something, and we send that to you and say, hey, is this something?
so there's kind of three different things, right?
Yeah,
Somebody in public comment raises their hand and says, I want to speak, and they speak.
or,
That's
yeah.
in the transcript, and does Gretchen transcribe those in the written?
Yeah, but I'm trying to limit how long people can speak. People used to come and read lengthy
Right. Yeah, no, you're right.
things, and I said, well, you can write your lengthy thing, so, give me a bullet
So
point.
that's case two. Case
Yeah.
two is, like Mike gave us a statement or whatever.
Right.
He didn't read it into the record, so if you're listening to the recording of this meeting or you don't know what he did.
Right,
That gets
Attached to
entered
the
or
minutes.
appended into the minutes, and we're saying,
Yes.
maybe it shouldn't be in the body of the minutes, maybe it should be an addendum.
I think it should be an
Okay,
addendum.
So that's good. Then the third thing is, not to take his name in vain, but the John Lavery case, where he says, ahead of time,
Yes,
I might not be there, here's what I want to be said. I guess you treat that sort of like the second one, right?
yes.
It goes into an appendix and so said. There's a final case, which is rare, I think, where somebody does send something ahead of time, and you, the chair, decide that that actually is something we want to take up in the meeting. It's usually we wouldn't do that, we would take it up in a subsequent meeting, where then it would need to be part of the packet. Is that a fair summary?
Or I would send it as part of the packet for discussion as to whether we want to put that on a future agenda. I think that
It
would
need
be
to on
more the
agenda.
case.
Right, okay. So I think in the case of this, so we can leave this one go, it doesn't matter, but in the future, that sounds like a good practice then.
Did you
Gretchen,
get
I
all
hope you're
that or
listening.
not? All right.
Not to interrupt, but Aubrey's joined us. She's back.
Yay!
Where's that baby?
Picture, Aubrey, of your
Welcome back,
son.
We want the
Aubrey.
real thing.
Welcome
Took a little
back.
bit of time to get him. Hold on. Oh, I can't put him on camera right now. He's decided he doesn't like to join the meeting right now.
Okay.
You can't start
feel
too
that way
young, Aubrey.
sometimes.
Start him young, get him used to these night meetings.
Okay,
All right, well, thank you, Kate, for taking the time to
All right.
talk about that.
all right.
So we can,
So,
I'm done with my comment.
you done with your comments? All those in favor of approving those minutes? You,
I am fine with it.
Yeah, I am.
aye.
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 All right, and we'll take the minutes of,
Oh, he's abstaining.
I abstain, I
oh, you
wasn't there.
abstain, okay. We'll take your that last set
Later.
later.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
minutes minus one, okay.
Person who said.
And welcome, transfer station. Eric,
Could push back up, Ryan?
yeah.
And we're there.
Just two today, yeah.
And go to the second slide. So we're here today to talk about three things. We started a dialogue about a month ago, actually, on the Black Earth subsidy. And so we'd like to conclude that and see if we can determine a subsidy for FY24. And then more importantly, tonight is to talk about transfer station recommendation for immediate enforcement, strict enforcement, very soon. And then more broadly, talk about a change to the transfer station regulations and procedures, hopefully to take effect by July 1. So if you go to the next slide, Ryan, on Black Earth, I've tried to simplify this, basically focusing on FY24. We have enough money in TSAC budget and a donation from ESC to do 60-something clients, and we'd like to do 125. We've only got 3 months left in this fiscal year, so I'm setting that at 125 as being a practical limit of what we can really accomplish, which requires a subsidy of $2,196 in this fiscal year, and that's what we're asking for. Go ahead.
How many have done it so far?
We really haven't started. The big first campaign is the ESC event on April 27th. There were 20 folks who'd signed up previously who they were going to carry forward if they still live in town. Many do, and so that we may have 20 there, but they signed up a couple years ago, so they may not want to continue to sign up.
Right.
But our big event is the Sustainability Day. We're going to have 2 tables, one on the Town Common as part of the event. We're going to also have a table at Transfer Station because a lot more folks go there. So we're going to try and really hone in on that day. And that's when we'll really get a handle on how easy or hard it's going to be. So if we get 125 folks this fiscal year, that should save us $4,000 in FY25 and more than pay for any subsidy next year. And likewise, if we got like half the folks next year in the first half, we should save money in the second half. So really next year, there shouldn't be an incremental expense. It's just a question of cash flow, if you will. But this year, we've got to start up, and that's, practically, we're not going to get more than 125 clients in 3 months, we wouldn't think. And if we do, then we'll deal with that. That would be a good problem to have. So that's really what we're asking. Last time we got cut off, there were some questions outstanding, so really it's a question, if you folks have any questions you'd like to ask us about it.
So just to be certain, it's $36 one time.
It's a one-time fee, that's right.
So there is money, you have the money for 24 already, right?
No, we have money for 64 residents,
Which
between
is
us
odd.
and ESC.
Oh, so you're asking for extra money in 24.
$2,196, and it may not be needed.
That's this year. I know, so where does that come from?
It would come from your expense line,
What's my expense line?
Select Board's expense line.
Hey, we didn't know
You have
about
it?
that.
Okay.
No.
And then 25, you say we could delay till June, but isn't it the now time to budget for it?
Yeah.
The issue for 25, in my mind, is really, it's not going to increase, it's not going to result in a budgetary expense. It's an accounting issue. We don't have a line which we can take money out and put it in.
So a revolver, basically.
So what Ryan wanted to do originally was he wanted to have a 1.5-year experiment. So he wanted to kind of finance the first year and a half and see what happens and then factor in the DPW budget. I don't think we need to have that. I really don't, but.
So the FY25 request, which is 6,300.
That's what we would need, but see, if we don't get
That's
125
what you
this,
would need if what?
we want to get another 100, if we got 125 this year, and we want
In
to target.
fiscal '24.
Correct, and by July 1.
Yeah.
And we want to get 175 target next year, that's what we
In
need to cover
addition to
that.
the
That's right.
125.
That's right, that's what we need to cover that.
If we were to continue to offer the subsidy.
Correct.
But we could choose not to offer the
Exactly.
subsidy. The subsidy
Yes.
is
In
for
the worst
just
case, we don't offer the subsidy next
FY24,
year. Yeah.
And it's an encouragement to go ahead and get signed up if you
Yeah.
want to get the subsidy,
right.
starting FY '25. Because what does Black Earth need? What are they saying they need
50,
to go
50,
ahead?
50,
50?
50,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a chicken or egg thing.
Yes.
Because we need to budget now
Yeah.
for FY '25, so we don't have the opportunity to know how well it's going to work.
Except not really, because if we get those 125 customers now, we're going to save $4,000 approximately in the FY '25 budget, because those folks will all be on stream July 1, and $30 a client roughly in savings per year. If we do target 175 folks, let's say we get half of them, get them uniformly, linearly throughout the year, you're going to get, the ones who sign up in July, you're going to get 11 months of savings. So practically speaking, if we get these 300 people, DPW is going to receive, they're going to gain funds, not lose funds. The issue is we don't have a mechanism for accounting for that right now.
Right, yeah,
They
there's no-
save
there's no
because
accounting.
less solid waste?
Yeah, exactly. You're taking, I mean, if we got 175 people, you're taking, 70 tons out of solid waste, that's, I mean, it's real money. And that's every year, by the way, so it's not only saving next year, but.
Okay, so again, I'm kind of, all right, so we could, out of our budget, we could give you $2,000 and you could go off and try to do it. And the message is to everybody, sign up now and you get the subsidy. Wait till June 1.
We don't know.
We don't know, or July 1, rather. And then for the budgeting purpose of 25, you're saying it's sort of cost neutral, so.
I think it
That's only
generates
if we
revenue.
actually
Yeah.
see a reduction in the costs, right?
Or if they offer the subsidy. I guess I.
And it is right, if we could choose not to offer the subsidy, then
So
we zero
we're in
dollars.
budgeting now, to your point, so I don't know, what do we do? I'm okay with 24, we got the money, great, but I don't understand the action request for 25.
Well, there's really no action request on our part for 25, we're just asking for 24. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just flagging that there's a potential, but I think it can
I'm
handle.
asking for money,
And just so clarify for me, and so without the subsidy, what is it that a resident would pay to sign up with Black Earth, say, starting in July?
Well, they don't pay anything up front. They get a reduced monthly fee for 6 months, so they would pay $20 a month instead of $14 per month
you pay a
for
monthly.
the first 6 months. $36.
Gotcha, but so somebody's signing up July 1, if the town wasn't subsidizing anything, they would be paying
$20 a month, right.
$20 a month instead of 14.
That's right.
Over 6
Unless
months.
there's a point, if we really are successful, you get the.
Where
when you-
Black
when
Earth
you get
reduces-
way more than 50 people, a couple hundred, now their rates begin to creep down.
Got it,
So,
got it, okay. I mean, I'm comfortable going ahead with the 2,100 for FY '24.
You need
Yeah, I
a
just
motion,
want
or it's just our
to be
budget?
clear that we're not taking action, we're not agreeing to anything for FY '25 by doing
Right.
this.
Just
Somehow that needs to be
FY24.
memorialized.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way I think that we could take care of that would be if we decided to do it, it's got to come out of the existing DPW budget. But, I mean, there's no guarantee that we're actually saving that much money. We may get more people in town.
I mean, Ryan, what impact would it have on the DPW budget if we were to say the FY '25, 6,300, if it were needed, if we weren't reducing the cost faster than we were paying out the subsidy, or what would the impact be on the DPW budget?
They could overrun a line, especially on the transfer station side, but for the risk of 6,000, given the size of our budget, I think it's worth trying. I think this is the type of,
So you would put a line item for the subsidy, or you would just assume it, take them at their word and say it's,
so there are some variables in the DPW budget, whether they need vehicle repairs, how much snow and ice comes. So we can reserve 6,000 just in case, and then if we have to make a decision between repairs and this, then we would go to the FinCom and beg essentially. But I agree that this is, this is a best-case scenario. If we get 200 to 300 people to sign up and to use the transfer station less, I do think it would be cost neutral and it's worth trying.
Right.
Worst case, we're down 6,000 and we don't do it again in FY '26.
Yeah.
But we need to reduce costs
Right.
for waste
Right,
and
but
it's
you could,
sustainable.
no, I agree with all that. I'm hearing two different mechanisms. One is you could just, without data, we just take them at their word, reduce whatever the tipping fee or whatever we pay for solid waste by 6,000, create a line item for this for 6,000. That's a budget neutral. The risk is they overrun the tipping fee category and they gotta pull money from somewhere. Or you could have this catch-all reserve and park it in that and make a trade, right? Is that the two different things?
No, I mean, the mechanism is fairly simple,
Okay.
as long as we don't overrun it by $6,000.
I think
Okay.
what I'm
The
hearing-
major thing is, we are not increasing their budget by 6,300,
And we're not finding it elsewhere.
but
But
we-
that decision as to whether or not we would even want the subsidy would happen later.
Okay.
Because we could still decide we're not doing it, we're not doing the 6,300, so there's no DPW budget issue
Right,
at all.
We may not have that many people.
Right.
yeah.
When are the tipping fees renegotiated? That was quite a while ago. Is that a 3-year thing or a 5-year?
Oh, boy, that was.
I don't know but I'll
Okay.
get back to you on that.
All right, so do we need a
Okay.
motion on this?
It's not going to be
We
good.
probably do, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody care to make a motion? To authorize the expenditure of, or you just,
Well, do
Yeah,
you need a
for,
24 motion, or
2190s.
is it that just?
The
Maybe it's
24.
two different things, right?
Let's do that one.
2196.
So I move that we approve the request for FY '24 for $2,196 to support the Black Earth subsidy.
Is there a second?
Do you know, do you want to know to transfer it from the select board's account?
We don't
I
need to,
think-
Yeah.
Ryan
You
just
don't need to
used
say that?
no,
We don't?
no. We haven't usually.
Second.
Put them
So,
into submission.
yeah, so I guess I'm going to make my statement after we vote, because I don't want it to be associated. I don't want it to seem like I'm associating it with what the transfer station is doing, but I'd like to make a statement after this.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous.
Okay, so I think this is good. What I want to make sure, though, is that kind of in the future, we know, like, throughout the year, what all the committees are wanting to do. We know what their priorities are and everything, so that we're not doing something like this just before budget in a year, because it really does get to the thing that we always talk about, which is whatever comes up gets the funding, whereas other people with good ideas may have not even brought it up. So I think we just need to be really, really careful about doing these in the future and making sure that it is baked into the budget.
Right, so that, well, I mean, I agree with that, and that's sort of a segue to the 25 request, right? In other words, they're saying, well, maybe, maybe not. We're saying, okay, if we agree with it, let's put it in. You don't have to spend what you put in, but you should put in what you think you
Plan
might
for it.
spend.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and/or there's a process, there's a really well-known process through which people make these requests that leverages it against other priorities that we may have had, so that we're not just spending $2,100
Right,
that maybe we would have decided some other way of spending that money.
right, okay.
Okay,
Great point.
all right.
Do we need a motion for the FY '25?
When we're not
No,
taking
because
any
we're not
action.
doing anything.
We aren't, okay.
Okay. so-
Okay, the next two topics I'll kind of address as an overview together. Last year, we had an interesting year. Overall, it was a good year. We had 1,590 tons, down again from the prior year. However, we were mentioning that mid-year, things flipped. All of 2022 and half of 2023, we were dropping 12, 15 tons a month versus the prior year. All of a sudden, July 1, it flipped and went the other way. We were increasing 12, 15 tons a month. And we scratched our heads, why was that happening? And we came up with some theories which proved out not to be true. A very wet summer, making the waste heavier, waning of the Transfer Station Action Committee event the October before. None of those fit the data. And I don't know how we missed it, but it was very obvious what happened last May, June. Harry Davis retired. And the enforcement environment also changed after that. The three people most associated with enforcement, which were Gary, who was at the transfer station a lot, Chris Serene, and Tom, are all gone now. And the enforcement in prior years I would describe as uneven. And by that I mean it didn't treat all residents equally, and that's wrong. And for example, I mean, I'm sure I have a rental car and I drive in there, they know me, they're going to let me dump without a sticker. Some other residents they might recognize and may not let do that, and those things used to happen. I chatted with Ryan about what's happened, because we now are pretty convinced that it's a change in the enforcement environment. The other thing that's happened is Gretchen now is doing the stickers. She is doing a fantastic job with that and a much more thorough job than has ever been done, and has uncovered all sorts of unique situations, like Kimball's and Westford Business requesting a sticker on their car. And believe it or not, some of these things used to be granted. So looking at all that, we're now convinced that that increases the enforcement environment. And therefore, some shortcomings in the regulations are pointed out, which we'd like to correct, but those are going to take some time to do, coupled with some operating procedure changes, and we feel a need to address enforcement immediately. So what's happened already is the transfer station, as of March 16th, started notifying residents of strict enforcement is coming April 2nd. And so they've been stopping every car that does not have a current sticker, telling them you got to get one in the next 2 weeks. And by the way, they normally do that every year, because this is a current policy. What they don't normally do after that is then start strict enforcement. And where TSAC has voted that we would like support to start strict enforcement in the following way: a 2-week grace period. So come April 2nd, if somebody still shows up without a sticker, once more, the DPW attendant will go to them and say, hey, we're now into the strict enforcement period. We're going to give you 2 more weeks until April 16th, but then we're really going to not allow you to dump. And so there on April 16th, no sticker, no access. If I show up as a TSAC member, no sticker, no access, you're going to get rejected. So,
Taking a washi.
So we're looking for select board support for that, and then if that happens, Ryan and Jim will enforce that. In the longer term, the selective enforcement, if you will, enabled us to address a bunch of problems. For example, suppose you have a rental car, and you had body work and your car's in the shop for a month. You should be, if you're a stickered resident, you ought to be able to dump your trash. Gretchen has uncovered some circumstances where a disabled person uses a caretaker to take their trash, and they get it vetted through the Council on Aging. So there's a bunch of special circumstances not anticipated by the regulation, which were handled by the selective enforcement. So we've come up with a placard system in the longer thing, where basically a temporary 1-month placard be issued for someone with a rental car, a 3-month temporary for a caretaker. These would also be vetted through a process through Town Hall. So to handle those exceptions, which were handled informally before, but inequitably, where some residents would get them and some would not. So what we're looking for tonight is 2 things. One, to support the concept of strict enforcement, which may produce some pain. I mean, typically, there has been conflict at the transfer station periodically, sometimes involving the police, usually having to do with someone not having a sticker. But now there'll be an issue there. So that's what we're looking in terms of short term, because you may start to hear complaints about that. We think if we don't do this, we're talking about 12, 15 tons a month until we do solve the problem, and roughly a cost of $2,000 a month to the town. So that's the strict enforcement thing. If you go to the next slide, Ryan. So, that's I just kind of walked through that. Let's go to the next one. All right, so in terms of the transfer station, before we talk about the strict enforcement in the short term, let's talk about the longer range plan. Basically, there's several elements to it. One is to modify the transfer station regulation to handle all these special cases. So there is a copy of the new proposed regulation which has green and red things, and you notice that the major addition to it is at the end, which has provisions for rental cars, temporary placard, if you will, caretaker for a disabled person, a financial hardship situation, and then a catch-all if there's other special circumstances arise we haven't contemplated where we could do that. The basic idea is that the issuer of stickers, the regular issuer, would not handle special cases. They would just buy and sell stickers. Part of this is proposing that be given back to police dispatch. And so we'll talk about why that is the case in a minute. But basically, if it's anything other than a regular sticker from an identified resident, it would go to the town hall designated employee, which currently is Gretchen, to adjudicate and hand out, one of these placards or something. In terms of implementing this, there are several gating items. We've already begun the public education because the DPW staff is out there doing it. We've had an article in literally the Mosquito, City in the Woods, so that's already begun. We obviously need to get the regulation approved by the select board because it doesn't take effect until we do. We do have an interim placard solution, which I got to go through with Gretchen. I've bounced it off Ryan. We're going to have TSAC vote on it on April 3rd, but we have a solution for that, which is solve these special cases. The one thing that cannot be put in place very quickly is the police dispatch. Ryan has said basically he thinks July 1 is the earliest that police could pick that up. And that's really important because if you're turning someone away Saturday morning, they can't go to town hall and get a sticker. And so they're not going to be happy about that. But, they've had 2.5 months to get it. So, it's, but, if the police are doing it, then they could. You could just send them down to the police station a mile away, get your sticker, and all is good. So the sooner we can get that, the sooner, the better it is in that regard. So in terms of the other aspects of the general regulation, Gretchen pointed out, for example, in the very first sentence, we had the word intended. And so when she had a commercial user come up with wanting a sticker, she felt she could not give it to him because the word intended was not strong enough. Intended implies we'd like you to behave like this, but it just be like we intend you don't go to red light. But if you do, that's not the language. So anyway, the intended is gone. That's the first change we made. We very specifically said no commercial. There's a line, simple one sentence, eliminating no commercial waste is acceptable. Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask you about that. So what about like Ferns in town? They have commercial waste. How do they then dispose?
Well, they don't use us right now anyway. Right. What happens now commercially is, again, it's an uneven situation. Most of the commercial entities do not send their waste to the transfer station. They use commercial things as our regulation currently calls them to do. But a few have gone away with it. If you do, and I'm not going to mention them here, but and that's wrong. Either we do or we don't. And right now we do for some and not for others. And historically, I don't know how that's happened, but that's been the history.
So a business in town would need to haul it, have it
They
independent.
use commercial, yeah. So Ferns, Kimball's, Assurance Technology. These folks, the vast majority of them have their own services that they pay for commercial waste, and that's so we're just clarifying that. That's always been the intent, but now I want to make it clear that that's
Just to dive into that a little bit further,
Sure.
I can see why some of the larger commercial entities may use trash haulers or like that, but some smaller ones who may have property who are paying property tax and buy a sticker, because we're not talking about like the construction debris or things like that. We're talking about like bringing trash bags.
No, we're talking, it's all of it. There are commercial construction companies in town who basically are bringing commercial trash to the transfer station.
Right, so I can see making a distinction about like construction debris and things like that. But, the Rollins Insurance Agency can't, has to do a hauler, or I'm just trying to think of other, small commercial in town.
We tried to come up with a line of what was okay to do, and it's a very slippery slope. We could not define that, a line which clarified as to who could do what and when. So, we certainly could attempt to do that, but we couldn't come up with that. So, it's a very slippery slope. Now, historically, there are very small businesses who primarily produce paper and cardboard, and typically the town still makes money on cardboard, loses a little on paper, about break even. So, that kind of incidental activity, no one's going to enforce that. But if a commercial business produces goods in that process, generates trash, that's really commercial trash. That's not.
But how are you gonna determine that? I was thinking
Well,
like some of the local, contractors in town, and if they pull in and they say, I'm a
Or a
resident here.
daycare center.
And
Well-
here's my boards and stuff, I just was working on my house.
No system is perfect. Obviously you're putting stuff in opaque bags, so folks are not supposed to. It's illegal to put recyclables in the trash. Yet we know 10% of them or 20% of them are going in there. So without inspection, which we're not proposing we do, it's not cost effective. You're not going to enforce everything. It's a question of having rules where you can you know,
Start.
and there's always an honor system aspect. I mean, the fact that you don't throw aluminum cans in glass bottles is an honor system. Use it to pick bag, and you get away with it. No one's going to inspect that. And by the way, the state doesn't expect you to inspect that. The state understands that that's part of the game. Ultimately, they do inspect our trash going into the, you know, on a random basis, going into the incinerator, and there you can get rejected. We've never been rejected for excess recyclables in the trash. We've been rejected for radiation.
This
one time, but
is
that's-
cost, you know, if we're trying to reduce
Yeah.
cost, we're trying to,
Yeah.
you know, reduce the amount of waste going in.
Yeah.
But I think the emphasis, and I think it's clear in the regulations, the emphasis is on, the transfer station is for residential trash,
Right.
Okay.
as opposed to commercial.
And they're not going to make any effort to, you know, they're not trying to make it hard for folks, but there's some obviously commercial activity right now, which is
Yes.
the problem.
Yeah, the end of that first sentence says it, right? It's the use of Carlisle residents for trash and recycling, which originates in residences located in Carlisle due to normal household.
That's the current regulation. That's the current
Yeah,
regulation.
that's what I'm saying. That's,
And by the way, almost every town, local town has that word, yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of, most of the other changes are relatively small. We added firearms and boats to forbidden material because one person brought a whole boat in last summer. So that was added in. 2 tons.
Wow.
And it was, you know, Jim said it's not on the list, so I couldn't say no. And the other thing we did is we put a limit of 2 stickers per residence,
ask
and where
about
they
that.
can apply for more. The reason is somebody requested 8, and they got 8.
I have 5.
For the price of one?
It's again, the key there is that if you want more than 2, you're going to have to go to Gretchen and explain it, and then, you know, some people have a third child with a car, you know, whatever they want to do, as long as it's not commercial.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I mean, so I do have 5.
That's fine.
I probably own too many cars, but
That's fine.
I've got kids that have the
Yeah.
car, and it's registered in my name, and I want them to be able to go to the
Yeah,
transfer
there are
station.
about, I got the numbers, there's about half the town has 1 sticker, about another 35% has 2 stickers, and about 25 to 30 folks have 3 or more stickers. It's fairly small, but, you know, again, if they're for non-commercial purposes, they'll be able to
Yeah.
get one from
So how do
Gretchen.
we know, like, I mean, it's just more money, right? You know, if it's just another sticker for the same household, so what you're,
What's going to happen is you're going to go to, I mean, I'll give you an example. A resident went to Gretchen, who asked for a lot of stickers, and she talked to them about that, what they wanted for. And it's clear to her that, in her mind, this was not about having a couple of kids you want to give stickers. It was other than that. And so she's going to make a determination that, you know, if you just have a couple more cars, but it's still residential use and you're not increasing the kind of trash you're bringing to the trash, she'll do it. But if she says, I mean, again, I go through all sorts of exceptions she's found out, but there's all special cases. But
okay,
so if it's for residential household trash, you'll be fine.
okay. So it's not really a limit of 2 stickers, it's, you can get 2 stickers, you can get more than 2, you can get 2 without anything.
Right.
You can get more than 2 if you talk to Gretchen.
Right, that's right. What we're trying to do is we're trying to set a regulation which makes it easy for Gretchen and the DPW to do that which is normal, and then when there are special cases, to handle it, to restrict that to handling Gretchen, not the police dispatch, because there has been an issue historically with how stickers have been issued, and there's been serious problems there. And so we need to separate out the issuance of an easy sticker from a special case. It requires more handling.
Okay, so then I just think we need to have that whole exception process in here in the process.
It is.
Because
Yeah, it's the last, if we go
not
to
in
the,
the sticker section.
well, no, there's 4 exceptions at the very end of the document. They're all put together, 4 paragraphs. There's disabled auto, the disability of a person, there's the financial hardship, and then the other catch-all category is the one that would cover the stickers and things like that. And there may be a few other cases of that nature.
Okay, but it specifically says a 3rd sticker.
Let's see.
I'm just thinking, if
Yeah.
somebody didn't feel that they couldn't tell somebody they couldn't come in with commercial because of the word intent, if this, you know, if this is only 3, then somebody, whoever's doing this says, no, you can only have 1 extra one.
where are you seeing only 3?
The last
The last
paragraph of
sentence,
the
the
whole.
last paragraph.
well,
Residents may
under
request
the-
issuance of a sticker.
Issuance of additional stickers. may be requested.
Rather than a
By
third
going to
sticker.
Of a sticker, I see. Yeah,
Additional
just add in
stickers.
Additional stickers.
Additional stickers, okay, yeah, that's the intention of that, yeah. That's the intent.
Maybe
Okay.
I think that's a pretty good change. 'cause-
Yeah, that's fine, I think that's good, yeah.
Okay.
I would say, having listened to 1,200 of these being purchased in the last 3 months, the exceptions that you're trying to rule out with this policy are glaringly obvious. And I think a lot of people, when they're looking at this policy, picture the way they go to the transfer station. That's not the person that's going to be, is not going to be hemmed up in this process. It's not strict enforcement on people who use it. It's people who are costing the town thousands of dollars because they have multiple stickers. And that needs to stop.
Yeah.
But it's not the resident who has their college student coming home that we're looking to say, no, you can't have that on your, that's not what we're doing. It's very difficult to enforce once the stickers are given at the transfer station to say this is commercial trash versus not, even though the employees know that there are hundreds of dollars worth of dumping going on that they can't stop. So if the intent of the transfer station is to allow anyone to dump anything, then the more loose you make it, the easier that is. If it's to allow residents to do what they need to do, then tight actually helps most residents.
Yeah, and I'm totally supportive of that, as long as we're not precluding the exceptions from being made.
Yeah, I mean, our intent here is that we've tried,
There we go.
we've tried to identify the exceptions that we're aware of. I'm sure we've missed some. We happen to be aware of the disability one because Gretchen had a case where someone came in with a caretaker, 2 weeks ago and handled it. I mean, she made an excellent decision in that process, did it, and we've added in here. I'm sure there's some other special cases we haven't considered. And that's dealt with fourth clause, and if it's a broad enough case, we may come back and want to add a paragraph there.
Well, the nice thing is it's policy, so we can change it.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, we're 5 minutes over time. I do have one question, though, and that is about Massachusetts state law prohibits recyclable items from being disposed of in household waste. What are the consequences if you do?
I mean, that's just a restatement.
It's just
Someone has to put
it's
a
just-
restatement of law, but the consequences, typically right now, there are no consequences.
Yeah, that's
The only
problem.
consequences are to the town if, as a result of resident behavior, we had a load rejected at the incinerator, then there's consequences. We're going to
Yeah.
have to take that load back here, dump it on the floor, and fix it.
Okay.
So, and it's a real con, but we have never had that.
All right. And the only other thing is, down at in the second section, transfer station identification sticker, you do say bumper driver's side, but in the first paragraph, it says it has to be permanently affixed to the front bumper, but you don't say where, and I think it would be a repeating there, say on the front bumper on the driver's side,
Okay.
so that people don't have to look, because if they only read that part, they might put it on the other side, and, okay.
I was actually going to suggest one change to that language here, based upon, our thought is that next year, we might see if we could move to a window sticker to get away from the placard thing potentially. And so what I was going to suggest we add to that is, or an alternative display that's acceptable to the DPW, because that may change. Otherwise, we'll have to revise this next year, and that's not a problem, not a big deal, but.
Revise
I
it
think
next
that's,
year.
I think that's, I think that would be fine, because I know that some people don't want to put the sticker on their bumper, and they want it, so they put it up on their window.
Right. Well, what's already happened for the strict enforcement, when Jim started the enforcement process a couple weeks ago, he flagged that he said this is going to be a real problem if we don't let folks do it, because some have already taken their stickers and fixed it to a placard and can't put it on their bumper. So what we agreed in the meanwhile was that we would support a placard, either their placard or our placard, in the strict enforcement phase. But we don't want to put that in regulation, because that's not, we do not encourage that.
Okay.
But you'd like to make that addition you just mentioned to this current proposed set of regulations.
Okay, I mean,
Are you, is that,
I'm proposing
what
that.
I'm hearing? Yeah.
Proposing
Yeah.
that. That's what I heard.
and are we voting on this tonight, or this is?
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
see
we
any
are.
reason not to.
Okay.
Great if we could, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
So your amendment is, wherever it says, must have an identification sticker affixed to the front bumper, that first sentence under transfer station ID sticker.
Right.
You would put a phrase in there that says, or,
or displayed in an alternate manner as defined by the DPW.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, and that is covered under our motion here, so if somebody would like to make
Right.
that motion?
I just wanted to say, so the strict enforcement, until very recently, at the beginning of the year, around March, the police actually used to be out at the end. And, I can remember more than one year when I'd drive up there and I'd go, whoop, and I'd turn around and I'd go to the police station. And the nice thing is that I could buy it right at the police station. But so that strict enforcement shouldn't be new to people who have been around for a little while.
Right.
But what's going to be bad is the
Police
police
station's not
station. Because now you have all your stuff in the car, and you can't just zip down to the
Exactly,
police
yeah.
station.
That's why the sooner we get the police involved, the better.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
Okay.
So I'm happy to, or somebody else want to make the motion? Or should,
Did you have something
Should I
else
do
you
it?
wanted to say? Okay, go.
I move that we accept the transfer station regulations and policies amendments as presented
And?
in the packet with the additional amendment as suggested by Tom Bellata. You want me to do, yeah, that's it.
Okay, great. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and we've already done the
Thank you.
Thank you.
other one. Thank you.
Okay, great. And so we do have your support for the strict enforcement. You just want to make sure that.
Yes.
Great. Okay, great. Excellent. Thanks.
Okay. Fiscal 25 budget discussion. So FinCom, you come and open your meeting.
Hey everyone,
Hi.
Hi.
Hi there.
another riveting meeting.
Yes. So I just want to, go ahead and open your meeting.
I would like to open the meeting for the Finance Committee. If we could have a roll call of people in attendance, starting with those on the phone, please.
Liang here.
Bernstein here.
Lipinski here. Meeting is open.
Okay. I just want to notify everybody that this is a public input session, which we're holding joint, so that when we get to various places, I'll be asking for public input as well. Okay?
Perfect.
All right. Who wants to start to get back to the budget?
Do you want to?
You want Brian or Lynn to start us off?
The budget as we discussed in the last meeting, would you want to bring that up or do you want me to
Sure.
just, okay. I can just kind of give you some highlights from the conversation that we had this week. There were 3 items to note that have come back from our last meeting. And the first one was around, which probably most of you have seen, it was a memo from the Board of Health requesting that they were having difficulty in reducing the budget as we had recommended. However, there was I don't want to say revelation, but they do have an additional $7K in hauling fees that they had that would go into their revolving fund.
Hauling fee?
5 to 6, Lynn, 5 to 6.
5 to 6, okay, sorry, 5 to 6,000, it's called a hauling fee, is that correct?
Yeah, there were several identified fees.
Yeah. And they're not fees that have any direct expense related to them. So we had 2 options. One is to either take it directly out of the revolving fund, that money would go in a revolving fund and come out anyway, or just put that full 5 to 6 into the general fund and then just have them have their makeup for their overrun from those fees. So from our perspective, from FinCom's perspective, we recommend that that's what we do. That money goes into general fund and apply their overrun, and whatever the additional monies that are available will just go against the operating budget. So that was item number 1.
Does that, sorry, Lynn, so if we do it that way, then they come in at the 3%? Or, well, they overrun the 3%, but net to the town, it's.
Correct, it's a net, that's right, yep, that's exactly right.
Wait, I'm sorry, so that does then bring them,
Let me help.
Us
The
collectively.
actual operating budget will be the one they originally submitted.
requested, okay?
Right, so it's higher than than what we wanted, but they're going to give money back to
It's
the
going to be
town.
revenue.
It'll be
Okay.
revenue, so it has the same effect
Okay,
overall.
gotcha.
And will we track that year over year? Like,
So we're already receiving this revenue, they're just giving you it back.
But the baseline sets higher, and so next year, maybe that's where Nathan's going.
Yeah.
Next year, I mean, it's peanuts, but next year,
Yes.
say it's another 3%.
Next year, we're expecting that same amount of money
Well-
back.
No, not necessarily, right?
Exactly.
Right. Let's say next year they come in at 3. Let's say next year we do the same thing. Everybody's got to be at 3. They come in at 3, no givebacks, but they've set the baseline somewhat higher.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's no way to claw that back. I mean, that's there.
Well, unless we track it.
Well,
Well, but 3%
And
of
what's your thinking-
$5,000 is sort of in the noise, so
Yeah.
it's,
3% of 5,000.
right,
$150.
so.
Right.
I don't
And you're
think we
thinking
should
this
sweat
is
it.
a good way to go?
No, it's not 3% of
Because
5,000.
what was your
it's the
thinking
whole-
on
The whole bidding.
thinking?
Well,
Well-
the rationale was.
It's 5,000.
If you didn't, if they were reluctant, which I'm not quite sure, but if they were reluctant to take that money out of the revolving fund, that would have an impact on the operating budget. And it didn't make sense where we have funds available that we can tap into. Why would we increase our operating budget, which ultimately impacts the taxpayer? So that was really the rationale around this. I have some other thoughts that I will share with you around the revolving funds and how this impacts the operating budget going forward, that I'd like you to all consider for the future and for the future FinCom as well. The next one is COA, and the COA had felt like they had underprojected their budget a bit and wanted to change it. However, we're recommending that we keep the budget as is. If they end up having, it's a small overrun, it could be around 3,000, I think.
So it was money that I had identified as potential for cuts, not that they're going to underrun. So I think they're going to come in 3,000 less than what they projected. So last year you increased the Council on Aging driving wages by $11,000.
Right.
I don't think they'll hit that. And I made the point to FinCom that there are 4 gift accounts that could backfill in case that did go over.
for COA gift accounts?
Correct.
Yes. So we're just recommending to hold at what they've projected out, which will be a little, obviously less than what they had anticipated. And again, you know, worst case scenario, there's a couple options here. One, they have several gift accounts they can tap into. It's not a lot of money. And 2, which we've had in the past, if we needed to make a transfer, we would deal with that when the time came. But there is money we can tap into. So there's no need to.
So
change
their
it.
budget as submitted is in line.
I would suggest cutting it by 3,000 for the driver's
What do
wages,
you cut then?
the transportation driver wages.
That's what we're talking about.
I see.
And you're saying, yes, that's what the FinCom thinks we should do, cut that transportation line?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
By $3 grand.
But-
And we
Okay.
feel pretty comfortable, like Ryan said, that we should be able to meet that easily. And if not, if there is that overrun.
They go
there
fine.
is plenty of resources.
Gotcha.
To make that shortfall up.
So we're not going to cut service if this is a problem?
No.
Okay.
But the little blurb here in the narrative says, we do not have confirmation from COAHS that they can offset the 3K. I don't know, what does that mean? They haven't identified it, or they don't think they can do it?
It means I was asked to identify places in the budget. This is a place.
Right, but they themselves don't, is this guided discovery of us to them, like, to teach them how to do it, or do they truly not know whether they have it?
I haven't discussed it with them. I didn't know if this was something that you would support.
Well, let's say we support
This
it,
goes,
but then there's
David,
some
this goes into
education.
my commentary after this.
Okay,
You're
all right, fair
bringing the
enough.
exact point up.
Okay, all right. But,
And-
and, sorry,
Oh,
just,
go ahead. Okay.
so at the end of all this, you produced a budget. That change is reflected. That reduction is in that little budget that's at the end?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Got it.
The third piece is, as we all know, is the Concord Carlisle High School.
Right.
So I'm happy to say, I think everybody's kind of followed the progress here. We've made some really good strides. We're very aligned with them. They're great to work with, the select board as well. we all, this is really a beginning. I think this is a beginning of the way we should be doing this moving forward. We've had several discussions with Concord and with the school as well. They have come back with, which I'm assuming all of you have seen, a memo that outlines why they cannot dig any deeper into their pockets. They're taking a huge chunk out of E&D money, and they're not comfortable taking that. So we feel that it is just prudent to have one more conversation with them. We're shooting for next Tuesday to do a virtual with them, to dig a little deeper into asking a few more questions. So where we are with the budget right now is we have not made any reductions. So the assumption is with the budget, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're gonna look at that there is no more reductions in that budget until we see what happens on Tuesday. I don't have high expectations, but I think it's prudent to do that. We need to press the issue. I think it's our responsibility. That is the second highest budget for the town. And we need to be asking more questions. We need to be digging a little deeper. And so this is really kind of the beginning. So that's where we're at on the high school.
But, okay, a couple different things. So this has really nothing to do with the amenities building. That's sort of a
No,
separate thing.
this is operating all.
Right. So you say we're at the beginning of the process, but we're actually at the end of the process in terms of the fiscal.
Well, when I say beginning the process, David, I mean the relationship.
Okay,
This
so
is the first year.
multi-year, this is, okay,
Correct.
so you're,
Yes.
okay.
I think this is, we have just started the momentum. This is just the beginning.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of traction in aligning ourselves.
Yeah. But are we
And-
aligning ourselves with the regional school committee, the regional administration, the Concord FinCom, or all of the above, or what?
I
Who are we
mean,
aligning?
ideally in Nirvana, all of the above, but I think.
They
coming out
themselves
of-
are not, I mean.
Correct.
in among
Coming
them-
out of the gate, what I saw this year was there was a lot of alignment between FinCom and a lot of alignment between the select board
In Concord,
and Concord.
okay.
Right, but against the wishes of the regional,
Completely.
right. So that's,
Although I have to say that with us coming on board,
Yeah.
I have seen a little more attitude of reconciliation. They do, it's not that they don't
The
want to
they
work
you're
with
talking
us,
about is
they
the
meaning school.
school committee and the
school
administration.
committee and the administration.
So the
Yeah.
school committee and the administration are more or less aligned, right?
Absolutely, if I was going.
It's like here,
Wait, I
right?
thought,
Well, not totally.
Well, I
They
think
weren't on the
school
amenities
committee-
building.
The school committee and the school administration work pretty closely.
yeah,
I
you
think
didn't mean the
the
town
select board-
administration.
No, I didn't say the town administration.
No, I was thinking,
The
okay.
select board.
The school
and
side lines up,
FinCom
it's
are-
like here. The school side pretty much lines up, and then we pretty much line up, and then we have some kind of negotiation. So that's probably parallel down there.
Pretty
You're
good.
saying we're sort of lining up with the town side.
Select board and
Yeah,
FinCom, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think that's, personally, I think that's the way to do it, because it's very hard, having served in those committees at the region, it's pretty hard for the minority member to get much leverage on the school side, historically.
Historically, but you know, in retrospect, I mean, this is my last year, and I feel like we really lost a lot of time. I think that if we had gotten into this much earlier, there is strength in numbers, and even, you know, we're not, you know, we are still almost, we're $8 million of that budget.
Right.
So we have a say, and we should be able to ask the questions, and if we don't agree, we don't necessarily have to go along with it. And I think that's really important. I think we have to be present, we have to be there, and we have to show solidarity to really move this forward. And Concord, although they're a bigger town, they are faced with the exact same issues we're faced with. They haven't put any money in their infrastructure. They're looking at much larger expenditures than we are in terms of facilities. They are in the same boat we are, but on a much larger scale.
Right, but I agree with everything you're saying, I just want to be clear. The leverage comes through the town of Concord. The town of Concord faces the same budgetary pressures that all the small communities
Right.
in the Commonwealth face. We talk about it all the time. The school, and I love the schools and the school committees, and I think we have a fine educational product, but they don't have to collect the tax bill, right? So the pain point is not quite everybody recognizes philosophically that you have to be budgetary conscious and everybody tries, but at the end of the day, if the teachers say, raise their hand and say, we need X, the school committees, including ours, tend to say, yeah, okay, I agree, you need X. It's for us
A non-school.
and our counterparts in Concord to say, wait a minute, that's great, but there's a trade. Like, if you do that, we have to say no to the next dump truck or something, right? We're the ones that have to make that trade. So I agree with you. I think that the way because you said something, we don't actually legally have that much leverage on the operating budget, despite the fact that we're 8 million. That's so sad. So if we're going to get advocacy, it's through that pressure point of their town saying, no, this is too much. And, from my own experience, that goes back to 2008, 9, 10, where we were really in dire straits. It was a tough call because we were in a tougher situation than Concord was, and they kind of listened to us, but sort of. But I think if we're all in the same situation now, I agree with you, it's a much stronger play, and that is the right way to do it. And so great. I mean, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I really Kate was really a big proponent of it, and they were thrilled. I mean, the FinCom and Select Board were thrilled we were part of it.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't be more welcome.
Good.
So it's really
Excellent.
a good start
Yeah,
to a
that's
good
very good.
working
Good to hear.
relationship, I think. So,
Okay.
anyway.
So you didn't mention the fourth thing, though, which is our own schools, because they've also made a trade, right?
Yes, and that was really, and that's the other piece of this too, is that everybody really has stepped up to the plate, and, our school has really made a great effort. They really sharpened their pencils, and they really did a good job, I have to say. I really commend them, and they really worked very well. Victor is their liaison, worked tirelessly with him, and they really wanted to make it happen. Not Victor,
Not
sorry,
Victor, I
Aaron.
was gonna say.
Sorry,
Aaron.
wrong one. Sorry, Victor.
The other
Aaron.
Victor.
They really wanted to, make it work without compromising any services. So I really have to commend Jim and his staff for doing
Yeah,
that.
and their school committee. And
And
just so
yes,
that people are clear,
Yes.
it's a somewhat parallel situation to Board of Health?
With
In
the
that-
lunch fund?
Well, in that they're making a reduction, they're giving, through the school lunch fund, taking on some benefits, so their budget line over line may not show the full reduction, but to the town coffers, it's a net down to the 3%. Because, thanks to Ryan, who identified it, we're utilizing an underspent school lunch fund to fund some of the benefits of the school lunch workers. That's a town
Right.
pickup.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just at the beginning of these conversations, but this is something, as a committee, we really hope that you will take under very serious advisement, and that is the concept that we have in this town of several, and I'm gonna call them, they're not all called this, but I'm gonna call it revolving funds. And we're not picking on any departments at all, but the reality is, many departments have this money. These are accounts that just keep growing and growing and growing. They are not what they're supposed to be, meaning money in and money out. Some of them have very large sums of money at the end of the fiscal year. They're not being utilized. And what's happening is, because that money is not being tapped at all, we are looking at the operating budgets and we're increasing monies. And yeah, you could say that some of these might at the end of the day have 5,000 here and 6,000 there, but when you add that up, that could translate to 1.5% of taxpayer increases. And at the end of the day, this money is not department money. This money is the town money, and it belongs to the taxpayers. And I think you can probably tell, I'm strongly against having these funds for a few reasons. One is, we don't have full transparency of all the money that the town has, number one. Number two, we don't also have full transparency to all the operating budgets, because what's happening sometimes in some cases are people are using that money to supplement their own budgets.
But are they, isn't it more the opposite case that they're not using them? We're trying to push them to use them,
For the
right?
most part, they're not, but in some cases, they are. They
Right.
are using it. They might be to increase hours for somebody, whatever the case may be. There are some accounts where money is being used and leveraged for that. The other piece of this too is that when they have access to funds like that, they are making decisions that may not be aligned with the town. So for example, if somebody has a very large amount of money, they may make a unilateral decision to purchase something capital, which is not a priority. So it really is diluting our ability to fully manage the town finances. So I'll stop there, but this is something that's always been something I have never supported
Right,
from
so,
the first day coming in.
Go ahead, because I,
Well, I was just going to ask, so what would be the appropriate change if we wanted to not have this situation going forward?
So the appropriate change would be, and this is not the case for every single fund, Ryan has more knowledge than I do, but for the ones that it is applicable to, that money would just go into the general fund.
At the end of the fiscal year, you mean, when it's, whatever's there goes into the,
Well, that's one way to do it. There's a couple of ways to slice this, right? One is you could cap, if you wanted to keep the revolving funds, you could cap it, so they only have so much at the end of the year. The other option is that you completely abolish those and the money goes right into the general fund for usage for the town.
The reason why we have those fees is to recoup the cost of managing the process, right?
That's the concept.
So if we're not doing that, so I mean, would it make sense to have it but account for it, and it is what pays for the operating budget for that department? And therefore, we can set those fees based upon how much it's actually costing
You bring
us.
up a great point. That's exactly right, Nathan, because what that does is it pushes the envelope and gives transparency. There have been some, I know that there are some departments where fees just haven't even been touched for years. And that's exactly what it brings out, is the transparency of, if you're using an outside service, but you've got an offset fee, you're able to calibrate that
Mhm.
and say, wait a minute, we need to increase these fees, for the money.
is there, but I guess it might be a Ryan question. Is there a statutory imperative that you have to create a revolver, like a 53.5? Or can we, let's say Retcom, I mean, they get, camp fees and then they pay counselors, like my kids. So could we statutorily say, no, Holly, put all the camp fees, all the expenses into your operating budget, and by the way, all the checks go to town of Carlisle and it's just extra revenue for us? Or do you have to create this little revolver?
Of course, the answer depends, department to department, but in most cases, there isn't a statutory
Or
requirement.
is not?
So the planning board, for example, they take in fees and permits in order to
Right.
engage with developers and contractors. So we hold the money in escrow in order to protect the town. In the Board of Health's case, they are taking in funds and then paying our contracted engineers in order to.
I know, yeah.
So you don't have to contract an engineer. You could have your own engineer. You could.
No, right, but you don't, I mean, what I'm asking is, you don't have to create a separate fund. You could, as long as you're tracking, you can track internally, right? You don't need a fund to track, right?
Right, yeah.
It would seem to me like the transparency is important, and I think that, so I completely agree with you. It's just how we implement it. If we have the fees coming in, that's not money that throughout the year that department can choose to spend in a particular way. It shouldn't be. That's money that we use to offset the cost of that department. And if the fees outweigh the cost of the department, then we're charging too much. If it's not enough, then it doesn't necessarily mean we increase the fee. But, that's one way to try to offset that. But if we just take all the money and we put it into the general fund and we don't account at all for where it came from and what it's costing us for each of those departments, I think number one is we're gonna lose the transparency, but we're also not gonna learn anything.
Right, but you don't have
but you can
to,
account for it by
Yeah.
department.
Yeah.
Nobody's,
you don't need a whole fund to do that. You just do
Yeah.
line
Right.
items on
No, I'm not
the.
suggesting you have.
nobody's suggesting to just take the money and not account for it.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like it's gonna, when we say go into the general fund, it gets earmarked, just like an expenditure.
Right, right.
If the Board of Health has an expenditure in Conscom, we know where those expenditures are coming from. The same
Right,
thing
and
with
what
that
I-
revenue.
and what
So
I'm-
it's almost like separate P&Ls.
Right, but what I'm suggesting is that that revenue for that use is directly offsetting in the operating budget for that department
Right.
at budget time.
Right, that's the analysis you run, but I think you said it correctly, and so did Lynn. It's like a little P and L, or a cost center. So Board of Health says, you know, it's costing me this much, and by the way, I'm generating this much revenue, so the net cost of the town is X. You track all that, at the end of the year, you say, well, gee, you didn't collect, your true cost related to that were less than what you collected. Do you need
Right.
to adjust your fees or the other way? And okay, fine. But there's never a case where we don't, having collected the fees, we cover the cost regardless. I mean, we can change it
Right.
each year, but we don't say to some guy who put in $1,000 for something, sorry, it costs more, we need more from you. He paid his fee, so he gets it. So I agree with you, and then that would eliminate this little extra gate, right? And it would allow us more flexibility.
Right.
So as long as there's not a statutory thing, I think that's a great idea.
I also don't think we necessarily have to collect all the cost of a department in fees, because it is also a service
No,
the
you
town
do.
offers, right? So I
However,
don't think that.
I'm not
that
saying
should
it
be
has to
goal.
be neutral. We, to your point, we may make a, decision that we say, again, I'll use summer camp, that we don't want to charge the residents the full cost of summer camp. We subsidize it effectively.
Right, like we don't charge residents the full cost of the transfer station.
Right,
Correct.
exactly right. That's a good example.
So the Council on Aging Transportation is a great case study in this, and in no way am I suggesting that that's not a great service that we provide or that we should cut it. It's just an example. So we pay an assessment to Lowell Regional. Lowell Regional gives us basically that money back in order to operate. So we ran out of those funds in January, so then the town starts to pay for those transportation services, which is the 19,000 that you increased in wages plus the transportation manager. So we take on 30-40% of those fees. The other side of it is we don't charge for that service, and I'm not saying we should, but you can, and a lot of people offset with fees those costs. There's also a transportation gift account, and then other funds that people pay into in order to provide senior services. So there is many ways to pay for senior transportation and many policy decisions in that. The town has chosen to just completely subsidize it without, well, there is a $20 donation for certain services, but those services are decided by the town, and the only control over it is the budget process.
Right, but you brought up another good point, which is when you get to gift accounts.
Yeah.
You can't tell, if I want to write a check to COHS to pay for the van, I don't want that getting thrown into the pot of paying for the
Planning
big
board.
salaries of the select board, right? So I think,
So this is my recommendation to the town, is that those gift accounts be used as backstops. So if you budget tighter
yeah,
and take more risk on and you overrun, then you have those accounts to make sure the service runs, and then you can adjust your budget. Instead of just accumulating money in that account.
right.
You
No, we have
use
to-
it as a
right.
way to
You
pencil it
have,
out.
right, so I think that's a fair
Yeah.
point, and that's kind of where you're going with everything, is, hey, departments, look at all these balance sheet surpluses you have. That's what we talked about over the last few months, right? If you're going to, there's a lot of ways to do it, but the way we sort of adopted here this year was, the thing is 3%. If you want to spend more than 3%, please come back with a plan to use
Yes.
other sources of money to close the gap, which they kind of did, right? So I agree.
So the net is, this is great, I'm glad that the conversation has started, there's a lot of work to be done for that, but I think this is really gonna be, I don't wanna say game changer, but I think this is gonna be significant in terms of just the whole budgeting process and the complete transparency of the operating budget.
Yeah.
So the net of everything that we've discussed today, Ryan, keep me honest here, I think we landed at around 3.11?
Yeah, so so you can visualize it, you've seen this before, but these are all of the cuts that people made. The recommendation was from this board and the FinCom to get to 3%, or to look at accounts where there are revolving or other sources of revenue that you could tap. So there are a few departments here that were under that 3%, but had money to give back, and we talked to them about it, and they did. So the revenue, this is the school lunch account. They're giving back to the health insurance, so we reduced that budget, or increased the revenue, however you want to look at it. Transfer station, which has, I don't think you took that vote
We
tonight,
didn't talk that tonight.
but they increased,
You didn't offer that up in
No,
there.
Recommending-
It's not a proposal yet about the sticker fee.
Is it going to
Wouldn't
be?
go into- Yeah, but it wouldn't be effective till January 25 anyway, right? Because
When do we-
it would be a half a year's.
Is it a, sorry for the
Yeah.
diversion, but is that a select board vote or
Yeah.
town meeting? Select board?
so that is a potential vote that has been discussed by the TSAC. And then the other cuts, which I know are not ancillary, but you've seen them before. Here is the Board of Health. They were asked to find 5,000. They end up giving 6,000 back in found revenue that showed up. And then this was the Council on Aging discussion. So total, that is 237,000-ish in cuts, which brings the deficit to around 30,000, which is a number you've heard before. So that,
We were hoping that would be coming from the high school, because if they brought their overall budget down to the 3% that Concord asked for, it would be about 25,000 coming to us.
so these bottom tabs, all of those changes were made in the department level, which translated to this budget request, which is 3.07% increase. Here you'll see the 6,000 for Board of Health. So we took that out of expense and put it in revenue.
You put transfer sticker revenue in there too.
In
Extra,
here, yep.
For half a year.
So that's the 20,000 increase there?
Correct.
That's
Okay.
a half a year's
For like
worth.
half year starting January of '25?
Yes.
Well, that's increasing it from what to what?
And House One
It's
State
not
Aid is,
been decided, but
Yeah, the
Well, we have a number, so we have
the
a.
number I've heard
we have
is
a target.
25 to 45.
House One State Aid is higher than you originally?
No, much lower.
Lower,
Lower.
so that's
Which is-
not good.
But that's a real number from the governor's budget. That could go up or down, depending on how the budget goes. In fact, the regional school, in their memo, stated that they lost revenue. What really happened was they projected revenue high, and the state came in lower, and then that created the deficit, so.
84,000.
They didn't lose money, they just overprojected it. So the,
So we're at 3.1 here in the.
yeah, is that right, 3.1?
it's 3.1 is the end of
Where
this.
do we think like capital items and everything would come in? But that's in addition to this 3.1, right?
So I can show you that. So capital would not affect the tax rate if you use the free cash plan. So you would be using excess reserves for capital. So that would be,
Would that be able to be continued in future years? Or next year, would we have to cover what we had offset this year?
so the idea is that the revenues are projected and the expenses are projected in a way to generate around 500,000 in free cash, which would be above and beyond your 12%. And then anything excess of that would also be used to offset capital. So you have been generating around 500,000 a year pretty consistently. The more you cut into your budget and the more you overproject your revenues, the smaller that pie gets. It's all connected, as you're pointing out.
Yeah.
So the capital plan articles, assuming that each one of these is to your liking, would be 650 for capital in the departments. This fire engine debt would be authorized, but would not hit the operating budget for probably a couple years, given the backlog. And then the MFC article, which is a capital article under the MFC's control, is 510,000. You have 74,500 in warrant article requests in the current warrant.
Was Bog House repairs that high? I thought it was
No, it's
10,000.
bog and house repairs.
Oh, Bog and house repairs.
Yes.
So the trade there was the 12,000 you saw come out of the CONSCOM budget went into that article.
But it's 10 grand or something for the house, right?
That was what we talked about.
So
Yeah, is that right? What's in that figure?
10,000.
Is 10,000, and the remainder is for CONSCOM maintenance?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the operating budget has 100,000 free cash. The capital plan is 1.1 million. You saw the 74.5 in warrant articles for a total use of 1.285 million, which puts you at 12.83% reserve to operating budget, which gives you an additional 300,000 to what I'm recommending put in capital stabilization for either future capital to offset any needs or to offset the cost of any future buildings that might be authorized or not.
And that's just, again, we've had this conversation, that's sort of contrary to Lynn's philosophy, so we're creating a little pool of money that's not general,
Dedicated pool
but you like it because it,
has a purpose.
well, everything has a purpose. The
Well,
schools,
no,
everything.
those-
So I don't think that's true. So there are revolving accounts where we say it is perfectly fine that you have 50,000 here. What is your plan for it? And there are some who can describe a plan and there's some who cannot.
It doesn't mean there's not a purpose, they just haven't articulated the purpose.
Well, that's the definition of a
I'm just
purpose.
saying,
They're
the
just-
philosophy is put everything in the big bucket.
It's just a piggy
and
bank, and they don't know
just
what
have
they're
line
spending
item
it on.
tracking.
Yeah.
We
So-
live in the 21st century, we
I don't want
can
to
track everything.
speak for the FinCom, but there has been talks about using reserves to offset future tax impact, and they believe the best way to do that is to decrease the cost of the big capital that's coming
By creating this fund.
by saving this money for that
Yeah,
purpose.
makes
It
total
smooths it
sense.
out over the future.
Yeah,
Yes.
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so not included in this figure, this 300,000, is whatever's left from the MFC articles, which would be somewhere between 0 and 200,000 by the end of the year, closer to 200,000 than 0.
Meaning unspent?
Unspent. And the unspent bond proceeds that we've been discussing is about 200,000. So you have somewhere between 0 and 400,000 that will be added to this,
That will go to this fund.
that will go to free cash.
Oh, go to free.
So this would be in excess of your reserve target, assuming,
Next year, you'd have another chance to.
So that would make that number better.
yes.
Higher, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So to answer your question, short term, 2 to 3 years, I do not see a problem funding our capital plan. And with some fiscal discipline, I think that extends 5 to 10 years.
But
Those are big ifs, though.
But if you were to, is this a town meeting vote to create this stabilization?
You already have it, you just have $0 in it.
Right, so do we, but you said, if we had to vote tomorrow, and we said we want to put 300,000 into it, and we have a vote, then 300,000 goes in. If suddenly we liberate these other unspent funds, that would be a next year vote to put more of it in, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So if everyone maths right and everything falls into place, which never happens, you would generate somewhere between 300,000 to 500,000, and then you'd have this 200,000 to 400,000, and that would become your capital fund for next year.
I like it as you keep going on. You started at 0 to 400, now you're at 2 to 400. Let's keep talking.
Trying to be realistic, not undersell, but not oversell.
But the closeout of those unspent funds, you determine that the project is either over or never got done.
They are over.
And so normally, anyway, that rolls into, doesn't it normally anyway roll back into the?
So you'll love statute, but by statute, if you appropriate for bonding purposes and don't spend it, the only way to do that is to undo it. So you have to do it at town meeting. So it's not like a capital article that you're done and it just rolls into free cash. You have to physically do it, which is why the auditor said you should, and Kelly's been working on
So
it.
you physically do it, but you don't necessarily have to. I think, I agree with it's a good idea, but if you decided you had money for a building and it's done, you don't have to put that surplus to another building. You could use it for something. Once you have that vote, you can do anything with it.
Kind of. You have to use it for debt, and it has to be of similar
Well, you
life.
do have to use it for debt. Okay, all right. So you can't go to free cash with it, anyway. You couldn't anyway.
You can,
Well,
if Cynthia's kind to me, launder it through the legal channels, which is to pay down long-term debt, which is completely legal.
Pay
We've
some
checked
other debt and then.
two councils. And then you'll see in the capital article, it'll say appropriate from free cash X amount and 101,000 to be reappropriated from unspent bonds, and that will wash into free cash.
Okay, got it. What's the timing of the unlevering of, the unwinding of those 2 to 400 or 0 to 400,000.
So there is no time, but the auditor said it's very,
No, but I mean, is it between now and town meeting or
so
something?
you already did half of it,
Okay.
and then, in your last meeting, and then the big one, the 101, has to be a town meeting, so it'll be a town meeting.
Okay.
This is a lot of really good work.
Yeah.
We're just the backup singers.
All right.
Wow, a great
True.
team effort.
Yeah.
It was a big, yeah, it was a really good team effort, for sure.
So do we vote when do we vote a final budget then? Or do
Well,
we
first
vote
of
a
all,
final-
we're going to invite some public input on this presentation
Okay,
before
good.
we discuss
Okay.
further. So, public input.
Jeremy?
No public input over here online. John, did you have some questions you wanted to ask?
This is your chance,
This is, yeah.
Me,
your
me,
moment.
John Lavery, or some other John?
Yeah, the John Lavery.
I have three, but I'm not sure that, they might be in the warrant as opposed to in this part, but I'll start off with a question about the police building. I have been following that as best I can through what's published and sat in on the last meeting. You guys have put a $3 million cap on the cost of that renovation. It's in the warrant at $3 million. But as I said in my note to you guys, sitting in on the meeting and just doing some simple math, it looks like they're roundly $800,000 or $900,000 over that $3 million mark, and they're just getting started.
Okay, well,
Comment
we
number one,
haven't
I don't
had
know
a
if you want to
presentation.
respond to that, or I should just go on and make the other
Yeah,
two.
John, we haven't had a presentation from that committee, so we're not going to comment on that, but thanks for that input. We'll certainly look into that.
Okay, are they presenting tonight?
No,
When would
Okay,
they
that
be
was, yeah, I didn't know,
presenting?
because there's no budget numbers available. It is in their charge to update you as soon as possible
Right.
when they start running into cost overruns.
right,
So I just letting you know.
thanks.
I wanted to raise that flag as early as possible. Should I go on to the other two, or?
Yeah,
I don't know
go
if
ahead.
anybody else
Yeah.
is
I'd like to
there.
just,
Nathan had a
Yeah.
question.
yeah, so when would they be presenting to us? Because if in my opinion, if they're going over 3 million and they're, or if they're at 3 million, they're changing the nature of what was already in it, that's a hard stop for me, because that was very clear direction. So it would be a real shame if it's so close to town meeting that we couldn't do anything, or we had to spend more money in order to get what we wanted, in order to get it by town meeting. So I think if they're varying from the 3 million, we should know that right away.
I think we need to invite them soon to find that out, or unless you have some.
Weren't they given pretty clear instructions?
So
Yes.
they have not projected that this is over 3 million. This is John's math, which John is good at math, but they have not identified 800,000 more in new costs. This is not a thing.
We kind of set them up so you have to make trades to stay in the
Right.
cap, right?
But you have to stay in the cap.
Yeah, right.
And you can't make trades that substantially alter what we're expecting
Right.
from the $3 million, right?
Right.
It's not like they could say, well, we're not going to have a sell, right? Okay.
So we should just put that on for an update soon.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The other two issues, John, what did you have for us?
For the fire department, when I first read that article, I thought the decision on a new fire engine was 3 years off, because that's when we're going to get it if we order it now. And so I thought we had time to discuss that, but it's not really, right? You're going to have to make that decision now. And it's kind of caught up also in the police station renovation, and the fire station renovation, and what we want from our fire department as a whole. So, I'm running out of juice. So I did talk to Brian at length. He was great in responding to my questions. And where I've come down on this request for the new engine is, yeah, I'm a supporter. We need it, and we're not going to save any money, and it might even cost us more if we wait on ordering it.
Oh, so that's a
Okay.
change
But that
from your
leaves a-
memo.
Yeah, that leaves a lot of discussion open on
Yeah.
the police station, the fire station, building remodel, and the charge, if you will, for the fire department as a whole. Some of that I included in my note in the questions, and a lot of that Brian has responded to.
And we
Okay.
do have that on our agenda for a couple of weeks from now.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
What's on the agenda to review the?
The
The fire-
review of
scope for the fire-
scope for the fire department.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that 2
And
and
then
3?
the
or
last
just-
one
oh,
is
yeah,
the
last one.
bog house.
Oh, the bog house.
Not gonna get off that easy, Chairman.
Do I go, are you ready for that one
Yep.
too?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
can't hear you. All right, I'm just going to go ahead. You cut me off. So I first brought this to your attention a year ago, almost to the day, in roughly the same kind of meeting where I just, in the public comments section, I said, we have a problem here and we really need to get our hands around it and solve it. And the problem being the legal issues at the Cranberry Bog, specifically the bog house. So some things happened, but that was never resolved. And, I worked through a lot of records for the bog house. It's really clear to me there are as many regulations violated there by having it occupied as there are regulatory bodies in town. They've broken them all. And on top of that, as Ryan has pointed out several times now, it's in violation of the conservation law in Massachusetts to have anybody living in that building. And he got that from town council. And so now you have Ryan and me, or mainly me, shouting it. It's illegal to have people living in that building. I don't really care what happens 5 years from now. I don't care what the 5-year plan is, or the 10-year plan, or the 2-year plan. You have a legal problem right now. And I think the only question you should be asking is, how do we fix that? You shouldn't be talking about funding. You shouldn't be talking about doing more repairs. You shouldn't be talking about any of that stuff. You should be talking how to fix the legal problem. And I shouldn't have to say anything more on that topic. And I'm not tonight, except, Mr. Modell, I'm going to make you a promise. I'm not going to come back before the select board unless I'm invited or someone tells me I need to talk about the bog house again. This is it. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other input? Okay. So we still have some more things on this agenda item. We have reviewing of the ballot questions, unless and the warrant.
And some budget. So David asked, when do we approve the budget? So the remaining questions are, is 3.11% close enough to target to approve? The FinCom did, I won't speak for them because they're right there, but did say that that's close enough for them. So that's a question.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So is the 3.11 includes the effect of the reduction of benefits that the school takes from its pot and these other little pots? It's all in that? So the 3.11 is a real all-in number then?
Yes. It's an estimate, as I've caveated a few times, but that is our
Yeah.
best estimate
Yep.
based on this year's tax rate.
Yep.
And does it
And-
include any unknowns that we may still have about health insurance?
It does not.
The 1% thing, right? We have to cover.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it does include some other items on this list that could change it. So We talked about the high school, we talked about Board of Health. We talked about Council on Aging. Just to make sure that you understand the 55,000 that's in the long-term debt, we're recommending that that transfers to the maintenance line in order to fund one-time things, so admin support, which is currently funded by the MFC warrant article, and then a backstop for any of the MFC articles in large capital. So it's in the budget. It's being held so that we can continue to borrow at the rate we're borrowing and plan, but there is no dedicated borrow for that 55,000 this year. I am recommending that if you cut it, it'll go away forever and you won't get it back. So instead of cutting it, move it to solve capital issues for 1 year until the borrowing for the fire truck or other items begin, and then you can roll it back in that way. So I know it's a little bit of a shell game, but
So what does that mean for the fiscal '25?
it means nothing, except I want you to know about it.
Being transparent.
Well, okay, but I still don't understand it. So we're not spending it.
You will be, but for one-time things.
So it's not going to increase our base,
It's not.
Okay.
you promise? I'm just kidding.
Kinda.
And the gap is, so the gap, if we really wanted to get to a number that starts with a 2, the gap is 30K-ish, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the health insurance 1% is 14K. That's in. And the COLA, that's 2.25 is in. Okay.
Okay, so then there's a health insurance conversation and a COLA conversation. So I would like to show you something that was requested of me.
So while you're doing that, so what's currently in the budget is a 1% increase in the employer contribution, but only for existing employees, not the retirees. They have already been taken out of this?
No, we
No,
just
they
did
have
straight
not.
1%.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this is the presentation about health insurance.
Yeah.
It's an eye chart, but I can try to make it bigger. All right, so we have 188 employees on the town's health insurance, 100 active and 88 retirees. Of those retirees, 73 are Medicare. So this is as of December. So these numbers change every month. So I picked a point in time that I had available today. I can get you March.
That's good.
Of those 88, 73 were Medicare eligible, which means they pay for Medicare and we pay much less for them. 15 of them are active retirees, meaning they are still on the early retirees who are not eligible yet for Medicare, but will be eventually. So most of those folks are close to Medicare age, and we're carrying them under the active insurance, and we have to by law. So for the Medicare retirees, so these are the straight retirees, the 73 that are Medicare eligible, we pay $26,000 monthly and $315,000 annually, which is split between the employee and the town. So the town pays $179,000 of that, and the employees pick up $135,000 of it.
That's the 57 or 56.
This is a 57% split.
57%.
This year's numbers, not next year's numbers. So this isn't exact.
Okay, yeah, okay. Got it, but I still want to,
So 1% increase, cut, or whatever is around $1,800 for that class of employee. For
The
the
aggregate, all total,
aggregate, yep.
So it would increase the town's cost
by 1,800.
by $1,800.
Yeah, plus the 9% increase, but I don't want to get too,
yeah.
it's around 1,800.
Okay?
The active retirees, so these are folks that are not Medicare eligible, same exercise, 1% is around 14 or 1,500.
It's only 15 people, so it's 100,
Yes.
Yes.
100 a
It's
person.
a much more expensive,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then our active employees are obviously the biggest hit in terms of, we care about them, but at their cost. So 1% is around 10,000.
Okay, that's how you got your 14K in your memo.
Yes.
roughly. Okay,
18.
yeah, it's about 14K, okay.
Yeah.
So this is, if you went up 1% and everybody went up 1% to 57. What has been discussed here and recommended is, do you want to continue to bring retirees with you? We are recommending that it would be a pretty big life hit to an active retiree. I'm calling them active retiree to differentiate, but those are the non-Medicare eligible. Pretty active hit to them to bring them down or to not carry them. For the retirees, it is still a hit, but it is less because most of
We're
their,
not saying not carry them, we're just saying not keep moving the
No,
They don't
increase
get
on.
the
Carry them with-
increased share, or the
Carrying
reduction in their
them-
share. Yeah.
so by statute, you have to be 50-50 with everybody because of what you passed. You do not have to continue everybody the same.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you dropped retirees to 55 and had actives at 57, you would save around $3,800.
But I mean, our goal is to get to 60/40, right, for the actives.
Yes.
So we have to look at this in the context of a multi-year
long-term goal,
plan. Are we
yeah.
gonna
Yes.
begin separating those that did their service, we're capping them out at 57/43 or whatever, and that's that? It's not just a this year decision. It's once
Well-
right?
No, I think, well, we're talking about capping maybe just the Medicare retiree.
And the
because-
Medicare and the active pre-Medicare.
Well, you can do them
Well, you could
separately.
separate them out.
You
you
could
could
do any,
separate them.
yeah, you could do any of those.
And the Medicare, and Lynn was on the committee with, they're very pleased, and we're not really particularly pushing for that, because their policy covers everything. They don't have deductibles, they don't have any,
So we don't need to
so we don't-
be really generous there.
well, yeah, it's not as big a hit for them.
Yeah. But you say hit like we're taking something away. We're actually,
Improving.
we're improving or declining to improve.
Right,
They
right,
would
I can
stay
see-
even, or,
I mean,
right,
Yes.
Again,
right,
my understanding broadly is
yeah.
as a retention tool
yes,
and to stay on par with other towns in a competitive employment situation, we decided a year or two ago that we would try to be better and get to 60/40, and we didn't want to do it all in one fell swoop.
Right.
So we said, let's staircase it up. So that's
Right.
great. We all bought into that. Not to be, I don't want to be harsh about it, but retention is not an issue with your retirees, right? They're
Right.
retired, so we have a plan, and if it's generous enough, it's generous enough. We're not taking anything away.
right.
We're
Yeah,
simply
I
not
agree with you.
sweetening
What I
it.
meant
Right.
was, yeah,
So a lever you could pull that I'm not suggesting, which is why I'm saying increase or decrease, is you could bring retirees or anybody down to 50.
Well, that would be a true takeaway.
Right. And it would
I'm not hearing
save,
that.
it would save $14,000, which is a year.
well, you could actually give it to the active members and
Yeah,
give them
right.
2% instead of 1% if you were to do that. Well,
Anyway, I guess my feeling is we should cap off the retirees and continue on the
right where they are
staircase.
now.
I
Yeah,
don't- I
and
don't
continue on the
take things
staircase.
Away from anybody.
What'd you say, Nathan?
I don't think we take things away.
No, we shouldn't take things away.
We
No.
can stop giving them more, but
Right, yeah. Anyway, that would be my recommendation, is begin the bifurcation. Don't get fooled by 1,800 and 1,400, because it'll be a few more years of that.
It adds up.
Just say, okay, we've done that part, and now current guys. Now, the question then becomes, when current folks move into the retiree folks, do they carry their 60/40, or do they drop back down to the retiree
Yeah,
plan?
what would happen?
They would go to the retiree split.
Yeah,
Yeah.
57, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
bad.
is what it is, you
yeah,
know?
right.
Yeah,
so they
And-
would just need to know now, right?
They
That
need
that's
to
gonna
know.
happen, right?
right,
Because then that's planning. It's,
And it also might impact somebody's decision about whether to retire before they're Medicare eligible, right? They might decide to stay in longer,
yeah,
depending on the cost to them, yeah. But knowing ahead of time, yeah, that's the key part.
because right now they're planning on, what, 56%? Is that what it is now?
And that's what they get to.
It is 56,
Yeah,
yes.
so right now they're planning on 56, so if it's 56 when they retire, that's what they've been planning on.
Right.
right. Okay, so are we going to make this decision tonight? I mean, do you feel ready to make the decision tonight?
Yep.
That would be great. Excellent. So what I'm hearing is the proposal would be to cap the retirees at 56/40, which is where they are today.
44.
sorry, it's 5644, thank you. And to continue with a 1% increase to 43, the other direction, for our active employees, with no differentiation among the retirees between the over and under 65. Okay, just want to be clear. Can I have that motion?
Meaning that somebody who's getting 57 this year, if they retire next year, it's going to 56.
That's correct as well.
Yep.
Well, year after next, because this year they're getting
No,
56.
but-
They're different, they're no
Generally
longer
worse.
active, they're
Right.
retiring.
Right. So next year, they'll get 57 as an active, and then the year after that, if they
They'd go back to
they would go back to 56. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So do I have a
You want a
motion to that
motion?
effect?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All those, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you have your decision.
Okay, so keep the budget as, at the 3.11%.
Well, you
Well,
just.
we
kept the
just
whole
reduced
okay.
it a little.
1%?
We just reduced it
We reduced it
You
by
want
a
me to reduce
smidgen,
it?
because you
by
don't have. this
5,000,
5,000, right.
or 5,000.
I guess I want to go back to the 3.11 discussion. I mean, there is signaling value in finding that extra now 25K or 26K and getting the 2.99.
Yeah.
In terms of the an individual's tax bill, it's kind of in the noise, right?
Yeah.
But it's a signaling that we're trying very hard to get. Now, again, and I'm not saying it to push it, is there psychological benefit to 2.99 versus 3.11 sufficient that we go scrub and wire brush ourselves 30?
So everything we've done so far is supposed to not have an impact on services, correct?
Correct.
So if we were to try and find more, is the argument that we are going to lose services to the town?
Possibly.
No. Can I comment?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you could just take 30K more out of free cash.
You could do that.
We have it. We just,
We don't want
It's
to
not a
spend
bad-
it because we want to,
we
Right.
wanted to,
Build
or
up.
put 30K less into the reserve fund.
right.
So,
We
I
wanna
mean,
get
there's play, you know,
Right.
It's not a bad
but
idea.
I don't think the 2.99, of course, the 2.99 is the effect of,
That's the operating,
there's
right.
still the other pieces.
There will be the other pieces, but at least,
Which
again, like I say, I agree with you,
It's
Mark.
gonna be,
You're not really doing it. You're just taking money you already have. We're not cutting.
Well,
But
right. No, but I mean, listen, we live this
But it brings
world.
less
Yeah.
to the
Cutting
taxpayer.
the tax rate. We're
currently,
talking
but
tax
we're
rate.
not building up what we're talking about for
No,
the
Right.
future.
correct.
So we're
Right.
just, kicking the can.
To Travis's point a little bit, we pulled that lever in the COVID year, I think.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion earlier about using free cash and having it more be a lever.
Oh, you need a microphone.
More be a lever for kind of emergency times as opposed to just optics towards the budget.
Right. No, I don't disagree. I wasn't really thinking of using free cash. I was thinking of actually finding 30K of cuts. But it's,
You like,
we live in this little ecosystem. A lot of us have been in this ecosystem for a lot of years, right? So we're pretty facile with what we just talked about. Most people have no idea, right? I'm just saying, when you present a budget at town meeting and the operating budget is under 3, it sends a message. Now, who pays attention? I don't know. Most people actually, since we're the kind of town we are, they probably look at their tax
Wait a
bills and say,
second.
well,
I
geez,
think
that's
you're
not.
confusing the operating budget being under 3 or the tax rate.
It will not be,
tax
that will
bill.
not be under
So
3.
this was the tax bill. The
Is this the tax bill?
3.11 is tax bill,
No, I
right?
think it's the other way,
It's
right?
the average tax bill.
Average
is the average tax bill.
well,
So,
for the,
Really?
to support the
Yes.
operating budget.
Support the
to
operating.
support the,
It's not
yes.
the total.
No, but their total tax doesn't break out all the other stuff, right?
Right,
I
this is
understand,
just
but
to
this-
support
this-
the operating
The
budget.
portion of the operating budget
Right.
towards the tax bill.
I think that's where I have a problem with this, right? It's like 3.11, okay, but what's the actual number,
Right.
right? If we look at the warrant articles and everything, what is the, I don't think we could decide 3.11
Right, it
is
won't make a
fine
difference, yeah.
until we look at
Yeah,
the
no,
the
but-
impact of those
But
operating.
let me, you may make a valid point, but the town themselves will choose to fund those. Those are different.
Right.
The operating budget we create.
Right.
And we present to the town with due diligence. We scrubbed everything to save you money.
Right.
Your choice if you want to spend money for X, Y, and Z. You're going to vote on it. You don't want it, you don't get it.
Yeah, I understand that. I think.
It's different.
Though, what we could probably do better, and I know we do it a little bit, is just in each warrant article say, this is what the impact on your tax bill is. Right? This is going to cost the average taxpayer $50 more a year. Or, it's like, because they're making that decision in a vacuum right now, because they're thinking 3.11. They may not even understand that that's actually additional that they're voting for. And so we should be very clear in each warrant article, you voted, this is or in each town meeting, you have already voted 3.11% tax increase. If you vote this one, it's going to be this much additional. If you vote this one, it's going to be this much additional, so that they have the knowledge they need as to what the impact is going to be on them.
So,
So none of the articles here do that. So an example of where that was true is the MFC article from a couple years ago. You raised and appropriated taxes, $750,000 for the MFC article, so that directly impacted taxes. For the capital, the way that it's being recommended here, and we talked about it on FinCom, it's using your town reserves in order to fund it. So the capital article did have an impact on taxes. You generated free cash, and now you're essentially using it to give it back without increasing the taxes. You could give it back to just lower the tax rate, and there's other ways to give it back, but you're doing it for capital. The only articles where there would be a budgetary impact are the fire truck, which we are creating that $55,000 in space in order to fund, so that's kind of neutral. And then the police department is a straight debt exclusion. That's a direct tax.
those are the ones I think that deserve the Nathan treatment.
Yeah, then they
Yeah,
should.
but that almost makes it seem like, if it doesn't make it free, right? It almost makes it seem like, well, why wouldn't I vote for the warrant article, because it's not going to cost me anything. I think still having like a cost might be.
It's pretty complicated to explain what's really going on. And the two issues, I have three issues, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just want to give you my three issues. Issue one is if you start that process, once you start it, you're on a path to do it all the time. And now you get a whole nother layer of people saying, well, wait a minute, maybe it's not worth $50 a year. I don't want that. You're going to, it may be the right thing, and they're like this true democracy, but you're going to take people who parachute in after not having any background other than what they got that day, and they're just going to focus on that, and it's going to be kind of a different dialogue. The second thing is I'm looking at like the warrant article for capital. We put the 650,000 or whatever as a chunk. Now we could say that 650,000 represents, $85 on your tax bill or whatever, but it's like 12 items. Do we now get into, well, how much is this one? How much is this one? Each single line item. And then the third one is this, my third concern is the very complicated, to really be accurate, it's a fairly complicated discussion.
Right, but I guess what Brian just said, maybe I misunderstood what was being said. It sounds to me like the answer is yes, 3.11 is the increase, including the warrant articles,
Except for the police station.
except for the police.
And the fire truck.
What about the GIS warrant article and the Cranberry Bog and the Bog House warrant articles?
As constructed currently, it's all coming from free cash or excess above 12%.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess
That has already been taxed. That was already taxed and appropriated, and you're holding it. So the idea is that you have a plan for that extra, or you give it back.
Right.
So then the question really is 3.11, that's how much it's going to cost of the police station and the fire truck. Is that an okay increase?
So the fire truck, I'm sorry to be so, I'm a nerd. So the fire truck is built into the operating budget as long as you hold that debt capacity. So I know it sounds like a shell game, but that is a placeholder for the fire truck. So there is no.
But if not a fire truck, that placeholder would be there for something else, right?
Or other
If
debt.
you're on a collision course, as your charts have suggested, that some future date when Mr. Modell is no longer a select board member, hopefully, we run out of ceiling, and then those trades make a difference, right?
Yes.
So that,
So Scott Triola last year summed it up better than I ever did. He said, if you don't have a plan for this excess, then you should give it back.
right.
Right, so this is like a total theoretical, but you could have nothing cost anything this year and give all the free cash back and have no reserves, which is,
Right.
no one would ever say you should do that.
Right.
And then you could start taxing people for each particular item.
Right.
Or you can create a capital plan with a funding mechanism and
Right.
build trust that that's the best way to use the taxpayer dollars. But I've said for a while now, if you're above 12%, you should have a plan for it, because that's too much to hold and tax people. 'Cause
Okay, so, other than the $3 million, only $3 million police station,
Right.
Yeah.
So that is
everything's
truly,
included in 3.1.
But the
that's a
other
debt
thing-
exclusion. It's you're going to tax above 2.5.
No, but it's going to be more in the tax, but I think what Nathan's saying is correct, right? It's going to be, if we pass it, it will be at some year reflected in an increase in the tax bill above the 3.11 or something.
I'm getting uncomfortable with this 3.11 because there's an error bar on that, and it is plus or minus, it's 3.11 plus or minus probably 0.22. So, it's,
Because of revenue?
Because they're estimates?
So it's built off of, this is going to drive you guys bananas.
3.22.
No, it is, no, that's not true.
yes, it's
let me show-
average tax bill.
Oh, I know, but
Right,
I'm
right.
saying that's an average, but the dollar figure it represents is not got an error bar.
Just let me show you how it's built. So Brian built me this tax rate tool, so we're calculating the average tax bill based off of the FY24 tax rate. A lot goes into a tax rate, so the new growth rate plus any shifts in assessment will actually calculate the average tax bill. So what we're trying to do is estimate what this budget decision is going to do to the average tax bill as it exists today. But if all the variables come in the way they did this year, this budget would actually come in at like 2.97, right? So it's within the average range. It could go the other way, too. It could-
So let me ask a different thing. If you were just to line the operating budget year over year compared with last year, what's the math increase of that?
3.07.
3.07.
Yes.
Okay, I kind of agree with you, Kay. I'm less comfortable with the average tax bill than I am with, hey, the average is like, you have a big house, you have a little house, you have a deck house, I don't know, but year over year, budget A to B, we kept it under 3.
Very
I would
close to 3,
say
yeah.
that's a good thing to say, like, we
Yes.
kept it under 3. And to Mark's point, or maybe it was, I think it was, this is what we worked hard to do, and then these other choices are there for you.
Yes.
Without getting too detailed, that's a simple message I think people could relate to. So 0.07,
That's really
let's
in the
get there.
noise.
Why don't we drive it out, find it and drive it out of there?
Oh, 0.07?
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
Well, we're already below, because we just saved 5,000, right?
Yeah, we already say 5, so it's not much.
That's
Just
probably
find
it.
it somewhere and take it out of somebody's budget.
We just, well, as he said, we just did. We just
the
did. We
regional
cut
school.
With the health
Insurance.
insurance, that was 5K right there.
Well, that's 5K, but that's not an, I don't
Well,
know.
gonna
that's
cut
part.
your salary,
What
dude.
is
You're gonna have to cut-
0.07?
Take it out of that big
13
select board
million.
budget, right?
So this is not to like suck up to Lynn, but this is Lynn's point, is everybody's cut except for the regional school.
Yeah.
So $8 million of our budget.
Listen, if you can go to battle this week and get it, how much do you need? Now,
25,000, that's what
Yeah, I
you're
don't
going
even-
for. 25,000.
all right, so go,
Yeah.
They're going for, so.
all right.
What does
And
that
we're
work
done.
out to be as a percentage of their budget? So the 25,000 is
It's
a third.
like coffee,
We're
it's like
doing a
what they
third.
spend at
They said
Starbucks.
about 100 and, what is it, 150,000?
No, it's 100.
No, from the whole budget for us to get 25,000.
100.
100,
100, because
100.
we're like 30.
Yeah, 25%.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't actually need, well, we shouldn't say that. If they're listening, we need it.
We need
But
it.
the fact
we
is,
do need
now
it.
we're down to,
We do
yeah.
need it.
But anyway, my point is, it's a nice, again, they won't care. If we say 3.07, it probably won't matter. But it's a good, strong message, like, we're working hard to, we hear you. I mean, one of the, I don't know if it's common, but a complaint is we don't take it seriously enough, right? We're happy to pass along tax increases, and that's not true. We work pretty hard to not do that.
Well, considering we started even much higher.
Yeah, much
And-
higher.
And we said, no, we really want 3%.
Okay, so I'm happy, I'm okay.
Okay.
But back to,
Glad we
wasn't
got
there-
that out of the
Are
way.
okay? You were just saying you weren't.
Well, because he was talking about the 3.11.
I'd like to see if we
which
could
is
get
spurious
it. I'd love the 2.99, but if,
for the budget.
for the budget.
For the budget.
Just not get
Not
into
for the
the
rate.
average tax bill and FED.
Yeah, the average tax bill is a spurious
In the
number.
budget, 2024 versus 2025, the delta is 3, right? I like that. And if it's 3.07, it's fine, but it's just not quite as,
Okay, but you cannot, and by the way, that is not a problem you can solve with free cash.
no.
That is a real cut
That's why I
in
said,
service.
it's not a shell game, it's just,
Right.
we just did this.
Yes, or you could take, I've seen quite a few things come here that are essentially multi-year. You're doing things like, this is fun, we're funding this for 3 years. Okay, so fund it the first year, a little, 0.07% less.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the GIS comes to mind.
Yeah, but
We're kinda-
that's
We're kind of
being
asking
paid
for
for
money
with
for
free
multiple
cash.
years.
But that's not in the operating budget, you see.
Well, okay.
Well, what it would mean is we're really not doing the 6,200 for the compost.
Yeah, right. TSAT.
right?
Well,
That's a
right.
huge part of that number, the 6,200.
Well, that's not in the budget,
That's what I'm
6,200.
saying, we're
Right,
clearly
okay.
not doing that.
Right, we're not doing that.
Center
There are
Park,
other things like
they're,
that.
they're
that we have
funding
done.
themselves, right?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Anyway, I think we,
Okay.
Have we beaten this to death
I
yet?
think so, yeah, we've been,
Okay.
an hour ago.
Do
So,
we need to
um,
do the COLA conversation? That's the next one.
yeah,
on
we
the-
should do.
On,
Yeah, we should
Brian's
do.
list.
Wait, I just want to be sure that any decisions that needed to be made weren't just, have been, that we're clear on what the decision was. So the decision that we needed to make was, is the 3.11 as it has now shaken out?
Yeah.
Because of, we have a 3.08 budget increase.
Right.
Is that acceptable to us? Can we live with that?
Yeah.
And I'm going to, okay.
Yes,
you're
although
I'm
we
saying-
very much
I'd
like
say
to
yes.
see the,
If we could shake a little out, I'd be
school.
happy, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, but that's not in our control,
I
unfortunately. The
understand.
school is not under control.
But
So,
when do we have to finally make any final tweak?
well,
Can I wait till we have a school discussion so we know if they went anywhere with it?
okay.
We could, I mean, that's coming up, if, I haven't gotten a confirmation, but if it comes up on Tuesday,
Yep.
we've got our public hearing set for 17th,
Set
so we're
3.
starting to really bump up against it.
Well,
So
yeah, I think to put it to-
Okay.
that would mean you would get together
It's 25,000.
almost.
Are we meeting next week again, right?
Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
but not on the budget.
But not on the budget. But we could,
But we'd have a meeting, the following Tuesday, though.
Yeah.
2 weeks from tonight would be our next meeting.
That would
Uh,
be
Which
the
would be
9th.
April,
the 9th.
fine.
yeah.
It's not that it's not doable. We'd just be cutting it close, because we've got to put our presentation together for the public hearing. We haven't set that in stone. We could
So
push it out
the
a little
question,
bit, but we're
I guess, so the question on the table is, do we want to cut our services in order to get to the 3%?
You are here, maybe Ryan and FinCom is here to represent that even a dollar less than this is a service cut. I mean, that's what I'm hearing, but I don't believe it.
I don't even think we need to go there. I mean, I think,
I think that so you could cut your legal budget, you could cut,
Yeah, you just make an assumption of something and you cut it by 5K and you're done.
you are,
If you run over, we know we handle that, right? The truth is, we run a surplus of, we're conservative enough that we run a surplus of free cash every year. And so at budget transfer time, if somebody's over, we move money in and we still generally run it. We're talking about, I think, less than 10K.
10K, it's 25K.
No, it's not. It was 25K when it was 3.11. It was 25K.
30K when it was
30K.
But then we took off retayees. I don't know. I mean, you could do the math, but I'm just,
It's 25,
25, all
to
right.
get to 2.9999.
It's okay, whatever. All right.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
you know, again, not to go too long on this, but your comment about our legal budget, that's not a bad place to look at. Just one example, which I had no idea was the case until just recently, that, you know, we're members of the Community Preservation Coalition, and while they don't have lawyers on staff. They have years and years and years of experience of working with communities around all these questions that come up about grant applications. We didn't consult them at all in this process this last 6 months. I didn't know that existed. It kind of fell off the radar screen when Luke, stepped down. I didn't even know, nobody knew we were members of this coalition. I don't know how much we spent on legal fees this year, talking to council about all the different questions we had about CPC issues. I don't know what the savings would be, but I do think we will spend less on legal counsel next year for advice around CPA questions, because we'll be able to go to this coalition first. We pay a membership of, I think it's $2,000, so that's already in the budget, but we don't pay anything in addition.
That, or we get rid of that and pay
Yeah, I think we've gone through this process.
Yeah.
This is my opinion. We've gone through this process. A lot of really, really smart people put a lot of effort into this. We set the bar at 3%. It's now right around 3.1%. It's $25,000. I think, let's just move on. I think we hit it. $25,000 over is great. If we can save it, I would be saying it's like that $25,000 we've spent on things that have come up throughout the year that we could just be more diligent at not doing. I think we're spending a lot of time on $25,000 to cut from the budget to get to a 2.99 number. And we could just be so much better throughout the year, I think. That's my thought.
But we actually are, again, we generate a free cash surplus almost every single year, which means we are better. We
Right.
underspend what we lose is the signaling value. We won't get that back. They won't remember that we were diligent during the year.
Right.
I'm looking at OPEB, we have 215. Why not 200,000? Like, what's the magic of 215? It's just this.
But that's cutting another goal that we sent, right? I mean, throughout the year, we can, what happens is throughout the year, we give money to a department because they come and they say something, and that gets baked into the budget that we are now dealing with this year.
We should be better. I agree with
Have to
you.
be better at that. I'm certain we've done $25,000 worth of that. We just did.
No, you're right. You're right.
Well,
But on the other side of the ledger, we've underspent things. We have I guarantee, I would bet you a drink at your favorite establishment next year
Burns.
that there'll be things in this budget that we approve that we will not spend,
right.
And it will be a substantial amount, right?
But that's going to impact all those other formulas and numbers that we were presenting.
I've said enough. I'm happy to go along with 3.1. I think we miss a little opportunity, but that's fine.
All right.
But I think it's a compelling point to raise to the Concord Carlisle High School. They need
Yeah.
to put
Yes.
some skin in the game.
Right.
So that's the message, and
Okay.
everybody's welcome to join us
Okay.
on Tuesday to.
I did send that message to our two Carlisle representatives to the regional school board, that everybody in this town, in every department, took their budgets down to 3%.
Right.
And the
What is
only,
their year over year region?
the region is 3.89, I think.
So without debt, it's 357, I believe.
Or is it?
Oh,
Without
Oh,
debt.
because that 100, when they
With
took
debt,
that.
it's like in the twos.
Yeah,
Sorry, what is? You mean our portion?
No.
No.
Talking about their increase. So
Oh, sorry.
how it,
Schools.
yeah.
Because their debt's going down, because they're,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but you have to do this before debt. So
Okay.
what I asked the school committee members was to ask the administration to look at reducing their budget. What would they need to reduce to get it to 3% overall from year to year without debt?
Yeah,
3.08, is that what you got?
no, 3.8.
That's what I heard. I thought it was 3.8. Yeah.
Okay,
And it's 3.8 of a lot of money.
right. All right,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. All right.
So we will do our best.
So
Thank you.
we're
We're good. Thank you for the.
good. We're done.
Leave it?
We're leaving it, right? Everybody? Yeah, hands up?
We're leaving and hoping for a miracle.
Okay, good. All right.
COLA.
COLA. Well, I'm just going to launch right out. Yeah. I think the 2.25 is a good number. Our unions, when we bargained with the police union anyway, accepted a townwide COLA, but with a floor of 2.25. The school, CPS school, their last contract, in fact, they are the ones that suggested, why are we spending all this time talking about 1/4%, and beating it to death? Why don't we just do go on with the townwide COLA? And I thought it was a good idea. Victor was on the negotiating team. He thought it was a good idea, but then he got replaced by Jim. Anyway, it was kind of in between negotiators, and we didn't settle that. But Victor and I then brought that idea to the police, and we kind of,
So that's the way we want to move things along.
and that's how we'd like to move things along. So I would not like to give our employees less than 2.25.
I agree. So I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
So, but I just want to clarify who an employee is.
The non-bargaining unit.
Non-bargain, yes.
Okay, so it's
Yes,
not all
non-
employees. So what, yeah. okay.
Well, no, because the teachers, first of all, are not our employees.
Well, they are.
Well, they are, but,
The police are, right, in the,
So police are
Police.
a union, dispatcher union, everyone else is
Yes.
non-union and then the school is a whole different.
right.
Yeah,
So all non-union employees would get 2.25%.
yes.
So everyone on the wage scale in the warrant.
And this is in the budget.
And this is part of our employee retention, going forward? Like, is this the reason we have that as a 2.25?
Why is it 2.25?
Yeah, well, I mean,
To match the floor contracts and other
right.
similarly situated. The schools, all the employees in the schools are at 2 this year, so there is.
This is a year after several 2.25s, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So as Kate points out, it's sort of an artifact of prior negotiations, let's say.
yeah, and going forward, we probably have to do some other things, but
Yeah,
we don't want to talk about that
I
now.
don't think we want to say though, I mean, so you were saying that your discussion here was that last year it was 2.25 and the year before it was 2.25? I don't remember.
For the school?
No, for employees.
school.
not-
Last year was 3, but we didn't have the step that was
Okay.
introduced last year.
Okay,
The year before that, I wasn't here, but I can look it up.
okay, all right. And I misheard, so
Yeah.
I'll shut up.
The point is to standardize it across.
Yeah, right,
If
I think so.
possible.
Across.
Right. And in the long run, I think I like that, where all the employees, bargaining unit, or all the bargaining units agree to this deal, like we go with the town, we go with what the town goes with.
Yeah, I mean, for too long, we've been, I feel, balancing our budgets on the backs of the non-bargaining employees, and I don't think that's
I wouldn't
fair.
go that far, but I would say
Well-
we should strive to treat the non-bargaining unit employees as if they were in a bargaining unit.
Yes,
That's why I asked about, is it a retention thing? Because we've talked a lot about that, how difficult it is to get employees.
I say it's an equity with a small e, personally, because I think, we felt this very acutely at the school side. You have a custodian who's working hard, at a lower wage perhaps, but he's working just as hard as a teacher who has the benefit of a bargaining unit. Fair's fair, right? They should get the same rate of increase as if they had bargained for it. That's kind of an equity issue, in my opinion. And I would say the same here, town next to the police or whatever. So I support the 2.25.
Yeah. No, I thought that this had a relation to, Brian has brought up, one of our biggest challenges is attracting employees
Yeah,
here.
right.
And so having this in place is one of the mechanisms in which we can,
Yeah.
attract and retain employees, and we're trying to do that in a thoughtful way going forward.
Right.
So I'm asking, is this a part of that, or is it not? Is it just,
Yes and no. I'd say, again, if somebody's, say, deciding between Carlisle and Westford and says, well, Westford has 2.5 or 3% for the last 4 years, we're not trying to, in my opinion, we're not trying to be, like, if you look at the health care split discussion we just had, that is a competitive landscape where they absolutely look at what the other towns match. I can't speak to what the other towns do for COLA, and I'm, again, personally, just speaking for me, not actually that interested in what the other, I mean, I'm somewhat, but not really trying to match what other towns do for COLA. I'm much more concerned about the internal Carlisle equity, where all employees are working hard. Some are lucky enough, let's say, or have the benefit of a bargaining unit. Others don't, but they shouldn't be treated less fairly because they're not part of a bargaining unit.
Yeah.
So by saying 2.25, then everybody who works for Carlisle, except for the school union employees, will be getting 2.25.
Yeah.
And non-union.
Well, and they're non-union.
School takes the same thing that the.
Right. They'll treat their non-union as their teachers are
Oh,
treated.
the teacher, okay.
So they've budgeted for everyone to have the same in the schools.
So they will all get whatever their contract says.
Yeah.
But there have been years where they would have gotten a higher percentage than the town. So
Like last-
that sort of evens
Yeah,
out.
2
That's okay with, and in the long run, if we can move to the Kate system, that also goes away. Then everybody will be on
Right,
this.
but we're on the Kate system for everything but the schools, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah.
And the schools are gonna get 2?
I think
believe
that-
that's
yes.
true. But don't forget, they get pretty generous steps,
Yeah.
many of them.
Well,
But then we also now have our own.
It's not as generous
No,
as,
it's not as generous, but right, we now have,
Yes.
based on what we passed at town meeting a year ago,
right.
we have a new
Yes.
wage structure as well that allows for a merit increase.
Just wanna make sure I understand exactly what the question is. The question is 2.5 what we wanna give, or is it
2.25.
2.25?
Yes.
What, is that what we wanna give, or do we wanna give less, or do we wanna give more?
What?
No,
I
it's,
just wanna know,
You have to set it.
right,
So right now, in the budget, it's 2.25.
2.25.
I need your approval.
and I'm in favor of that.
2?
What are you looking at, Travis?
I was just curious on the finance committee, I mean, if you had weighed in on that at all, as far as, you put it at 2.25, obviously, so.
I mean, my feeling is, I mean, I'm aligned with Kate's philosophy, and that's why I felt it was also fair. And David brings up a good point, it's really an equity issue too.
Yeah.
And it's been something that, from year to year, has really been a struggle. And I think so it's been kind of a multi-pronged effort, meaning with Ryan putting in these step increases, I think really brings people more into parity, and bringing the health insurance up a little bit, and then having that equity of the COLAs kind of all falling together, really, I think, rounds this out very nicely. It makes us attractive, and for good or bad, I mean, one of the reasons why we're struggling with some of these increases is we have seen about a significant amount of people coming onto healthcare. Now, some of those are new workers, but again, we are attracting the right people in. That's just my opinion. You know, I'd like you guys to weigh in if you feel different. So that was the rationale, if that helps.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm fine with 2.25.
Yep. Okay? All right. You're good to go with 2.25.
All right. The warrant. A lot of this has been covered already, so. Consent agenda, town reports, salaries of elected officials. So the town clerk's salary is tied to the wage scale now, so all the decisions that were made will equal out to that number in a way that I can explain at town meeting if asked. The actuarial study of OPEB is one of the warrant articles listed, part of the free cash usage that was discussed. Allowing real estate tax exemptions is something you've already approved. allowing us to spend Chapter 90 is something I think you continue to approve. PEG, this is the use of the Comcast funds in order to provide the service that people are watching on now and other capital investments. Article 8, this is where you would have your discussion about either authorizing a new, subtracting a revolving fund, or you do set annually the limits here, so there will be a chart in the motions. This is how much can be spent from those revolving funds.
Maybe what we need is be how much can be kept in each, you know.
Yeah, that's not statutory, that's local, so you.
Okay, got it, okay.
Okay, Article 9, we just discussed, so this would be updated to, it is updated here to include 2.25, we'll make sure that's accurate. And then the classifications. So we have made some in-season changes, but they've all been communicated to you, so this is a known chart. One example, part-time police officers were not on the chart, we did add them, they are non-union employees.
That's the police assistant? Is that what it's called? No, I see above it. Oh, below it, grade 5. Okay.
So we have 3 types of part-time officers, which should go away in the next 5 years as post comes in and takes away certain requirements for part-time officers. Deputy chief, right, that decision was made this year, so that was added. Operating budget, we spent a lot of time on that. That'll show up here.
Can we go through that again?
That's good. The capital equipment article is here with all of its components. The MFC article will be here. We can add detail as required or asked during the motions. The fire engine borrow, so this would be to authorize that borrowing, and then eventually it would become part of the operating budget. Revoking the opioid settlement stabilization fund and creating a special revenue fund is a special gift from the state. So we have to do that. This is in here as a placeholder in case you want to do the capital stabilization move.
Yeah.
It can also be taken out, and that money would just remain in free cash. You've had a presentation and discussions on the GIS program. This is a standalone warrant article for the town to review. Funding would come from free cash. The Cranberry Bog and Cranberry Bog House maintenance. That's the 26.5. You will note in my note to you that the MFC did discuss this and voted to recommend to you that 10,000 for the Bog House be moved to their warrant article, and the 16.5 stay for the CONSCOM. They believe that it is under their charter to do that maintenance, and they said explicitly that they would work with Warren and the CONSCOM to make sure that it was done to standard, but they wanted to oversee it as part of facilities.
So this
Yeah,
would
that's it.
change then,
Yes, this would change.
the number here.
Yeah.
A real quick question. The recommendations there are just a placeholder, right? We haven't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So that was just to build this warrant
Yeah,
system.
that makes sense.
Police station renovation. So this is your warrant article to renovate the police station.
And who would make that presentation? The committee or the chief or?
It'll likely be a team effort.
Okay.
I would want to see everyone up there to discuss it and have pieces of that to show unanimity. And then the CPA annual articles. So motion 1, this is numbers that need to be changed in order to capture the current funding, but it will be important to note that there is 30,000 in the admin, and that will include a analysis of the Bog House. So there's 20,000 in there for that, and that will be called out.
Did I miss in the last meeting, kind of an overview of what was going on with CPA, or have we not had that yet?
Most of the articles were discussed
Last week?
Yep.
Okay.
Or previously, yeah.
previously. And then, so this one is, motion 2 is for the water analysis of the Cranberry Bogs. This was the compromise with the petitioners to look at water flow and other impacts of that dam and make sure that the recommendations are tied to a hydrological study and that's appropriate for the Cranberry Bog. Motion 3 is $50,000 for rental assistance from COHS. You got a individual presentation about this. 56675 for fixing the fob and other ADA compliant entrances at Benfield. So this number is still not there, and the whole proposal is still not there. If we can't get it done, then obviously it would be pulled, but we're trying to get this together to get a good analysis to the CPC. We do think we will get something to them by April 2nd, so they can decide whether or not to include this. And then 30,000 for another water study of the Greeno Dam area. And then the only remaining articles are the 2 citizens petitions. So these are still on here. They have to be on here by law. The petitioners are working to try and de-signature these, but they have to get the exact signatures that went on it to get it off. So this is a
Okay.
town council. This is not any employee that made this.
They can withdraw at the meeting, right?
So you can just pass over at the meeting, but it might stay on the warrant.
Okay,
You can't remove it without,
yeah.
and those are the articles. So we've trimmed it down quite a bit.
All
I have
right.
a couple follow-up
Wait a
questions.
second. Sorry. Never mind.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So just 3 things, I guess. The Article 8, the revolving fund, you said you're going to make a chart. Are we going to look at, back to our earlier discussion, like how much is unspent? What do they project to spend and how much we would authorize? Are we going to get that?
You can look at it, but it's not part of this warrant article. So you only set the
What are we going to be voting on in the warrant article then?
the limits, so how much they can spend in a year.
Which is based on what? What they anticipate needing?
Yes. So once you authorize the revolving fund, then all you can do is set the
But
limit.
isn't that compounding the problem we have? Can't you authorize a lower level if you feel they've got unspent funds in there?
You can, but that wouldn't change the total.
That doesn't,
It would just change how much they could spend.
But isn't that the point? Oh,
no.
no, you want them to spend, okay.
Well, we want them to spend it on the things that are supposed to be spent on.
Well, they do, but if they have a balance, it doesn't acknowledge that.
That's right.
They spend what they spend.
Right.
Okay. And then the second thing is, question is, in the wage and class chart, I didn't see the seniors, you guys, in there. Aren't you on that chart as well?
So
PA, police chief and so forth?
anyone with a contract is not.
Is not on there, okay.
So that's me, the fire chief, the police chief.
Okay. And then the last question I have is this Bog House, Article 17. So everybody has to, I mean, MFC is saying it really should be part of our budget. We're going to take on fixing the Bog House. Conscom says what?
I have a meeting with
So the
them
rep-
Thursday. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so of that 26.5 that's in here, that's going to drop by 10, which will then go to MFC, which is going to
Yeah,
cover.
I understand that.
And the rest of the money is for Cranberry Bog maintenance.
No,
It
I
has
understand
nothing
all
to do with
that.
the house.
No, I'm talking about the house, the 10K.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying Conscom has not agreed to that. It's a question of who has control of the funding, right?
You do.
Right. Okay, so it should go to one of our departments. Is Conscom elected or appointed?
No, they're,
Pointed.
They're
They're us too.
So is the MFC.
So, right, and so, again, just to make sure we're clear, and in light of John Lavery's comments a little bit, we went through this and we said the most important thing right now is to make sure it's safe, right? So that's our mission, is to make it safe. Other missions we may have, but
yeah.
that's our mission with this
I
one.
want to, and not necessarily safe for the tenants, we want
Just
it
safe, period.
safe, period.
Right, and then I guess the question is now for us, do we support the MFC in giving them the control of that 10? We should decide that, right?
Giving them responsibility for that
That
maintenance.
10K, right.
That 10K.
Yeah. Well, what did the MFC have to say? Let's start with the MFC member here.
Well, the MFC was, I think, supportive of taking it on as a
Okay.
responsibility, but
Right.
needed the authority to do so.
Okay.
I just want to make sure, is the 10K, was that settled as a board here?
I think it was in a meeting a couple meetings ago, or maybe it was last meeting.
Okay, because I thought we talked about it, but I don't know we'd have kind of formally agreed, or?
Yes.
Yeah, and there was quite a bit of back and forth about the minutes for that meeting around that piece, and you'll see in the final version that Gretchen shared with us that, and I listened to the recording again, I don't know if, and I think Gretchen did too. We didn't take a motion, but we did have the discussion. Nathan made the suggestion, let's say, $10,000 just to do the repairs based on safety, and that's what we agreed to without a formal vote.
So if we, yeah. We'll have to be more careful about these formal votes, so which I'm trying to be doing, so that we really all
We
have that.
memorialize what was
Yeah.
agreed.
I mean,
Right.
the formal vote comes when we vote in
Right.
support or not support of the
Right.
warrant articles,
Right.
Yeah,
so.
okay. Any other questions about the warrant? Great, let's move on to the ballot questions. We are running out of time. We've ran out of time a long time ago.
Should we close our meeting?
Oh, yeah, you probably want to, huh? Because you, it's not really money.
Oh, well, hang out, that's a separate thing.
Okay,
Is that good? Yeah?
yeah, that's good.
Could I,
Oh, wait, excuse me, do you have anything to say about the unspent bond proceeds?
We'll have to vote on that, yep.
Well, will the FinCom be interested in that, is what I'm asking.
They
before-
were, and they're supportive.
Well, I guess the question is, do you want to close your meeting before or after that particular discussion we have on our agenda?
Do that next and then come back to the ballot.
All right, let's do that next then, and we'll come back to the ballot questions. Okay,
Okay,
choice.
I can do this in under a minute, but longer if necessary. So, the town borrowed money to do projects and then spent less than it borrowed. So that excess money by statute needs to be reappropriated. Anything under 50,000 can be appropriated by the town's executive, which is you. Anything over 50,000 has to be reappropriated at town meeting. So the list on the right is stuff that we're asking you tonight to reappropriate to long-term debt. The number on the left will go under the capital article in the town meeting warrant for a total of around $196,000, around $200,000 in proceeds that will, for all intents and purposes, turn into free cash. So your vote tonight is for all of the items that no longer have a purpose, but we borrowed for and we have into an account to go into the long-term debt payment. So you're going to pay for long-term debt, but we already paid for most of long-term debt, so that'll turn into a deficit account, and then we'll wash the free cash.
That's the right hand or the left hand?
The right hand. So I have it up here in the motion.
94.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
So,
Tell me about the mechanics of the left, the 101.
So only town meeting can reappropriate that? So in the capital article, it'll say to reappropriate 101 from this date plus free cash in order to fund the following list.
And what will it fund?
The capital.
Any
warrant.
capital?
$510,000 capital article.
So it was
Oh,
a school
okay.
project, so we're saying it's going to fund the wastewater treatment plant
Okay,
stuff.
okay. So in other words, the 510, or isn't it 650? I thought-
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, will actually be 100K less at the end of the day. And then that also, so it's only the approval cycle that's different. The mechanism of washing to free cash is the same, right? Okay.
Because you won't use as much, so you'll have it.
Okay.
With the exception of the top one there, knowing how much some of these things were, it's pretty impressive how close
Yeah.
the estimate was.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, can I have a motion then, please?
I move to
That the
that the select board vote pursuant to General Legislature C 44, Section 20, to authorize the payment of indebtedness, specifically the long-term debt line in the town's operating budget, with the transfer and application of unspent proceeds of borrowing for certain completed projects which are not in excess of 50,000 as identified in the packet.
Okay. Would the FinCom like to weigh in with an opinion about that, or advice?
We are supportive.
Okay, all right.
Great.
Any discussion, further discussion here? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Hey.
Now you can close your meeting. Thank you.
I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Roll call, please.
Bernstein, yes.
Is Victor still there?
Victor, you there? I see you.
Oh, CSV.
Pinsky?
Now you can close it without him.
It might have been him trying to call in by phone, but I was worried about Zoom
He
bombing.
was trying to call him by phone.
Oh, sorry,
Okay,
I didn't let him in.
You can close.
All right.
we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
So,
much.
Lynn, how many are rolling off? You and Victor? No.
No, just me.
You're the only one, okay. How many years?
Guy. 9.
You did the 9, yeah, you rock. Let's hear it for 9-year FinCom
Wow,
members.
Thank
man.
you, thank you, Lynn.
Done.
I know, it was done, it's been done.
Hopefully I caused a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for
Yeah.
all your work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Just saw the email from the text. I've been in the waiting room for 20 minutes.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, poor you.
Oh,
It was an unidentified number, I thought it was spam.
Okay.
Sorry.
Don't be too careful, all right.
all right.
3 ballot questions that I can explain rather quickly. So assuming you want to exclude the fire department debt, which I am recommending you do, then it does require a ballot.
Yep.
Yeah.
If the town says no, then I think you have your. That's
Yeah,
what
so
the
it
town
gives the, I mean, besides the fact that it's excluded, that it also gives the town taxpayers a second look at that expenditure, not just the group that shows up to town
Yes.
meeting, which is probably a good thing, since,
I think it's good because it's been discussed and it fits into a plan, and if they don't want it, they don't want it.
Will there be an amount in the ballot question?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the second one, this is still being finalized, but the second one is the police station.
yep, same thing.
And then the third one is the town clerk moving to an appointed position.
Yeah, and we should probably be starting to do some outreach and education again about this
Town
particular
clerk.
one, so that people are getting to the ballot box not knowing a darn thing about it.
Well, we really, if we're supporting all 3, we should do outreach on all 3,
Yeah.
because it's a different constituency than show up at town meeting.
Yep. Okay.
That's just it. Just wanted you to see them so that you know they're coming.
Yeah. TA report.
Oh, good, I'm up again.
Yeah. A little late, sorry.
Okay, we already talked about the cubicle project that'll begin in May. I am digitizing the executive records, so these records go back to 2013. It's 35 boxes of records being digitized so that we can actually know what's in there rather than having it sit in the vault. That starts tomorrow. This is ARPA funded. I do not think I will use all the records management money despite wanting to, so some of that's going to be returned to ARPA. This will be a future discussion. We regret to inform everyone that Juniper Friedman resigned from her position. Simply was not a fit. She was a lovely person, and it was great to get to know her, but we are looking at other options for that position. We also had and sent an offer to a heavy equipment operator who worked in a different community. We almost had a signed offer, but it was the health insurance splits that caused the employee not to come. We did offer another step or two to try and overcome it, and it just wasn't enough. So I'm only saying that to back up the discussion that you had earlier, that it is indeed a thing. We talked about the budget at length, so I can skip this section. Also, town meeting, we finalized the postcard. We made it bright green, and
Oh,
we
I
are
was going
going.
to say, because this looks like a funeral announcement for the flag.
So it is bright
Good.
green. It'll show up in people's boxes. We are very serious that we will hand deliver warrants. We are going to put information everywhere to include an advertisement in the Mosquito. We will bring a warrant to your house if you want one. And I am going to deliver a signed one to John Ballantyne because he likes to write in the margins, and he told me that last year. Also, we'll put it at the police station, the Gleason Public Library, and the town hall lobby. So it'll be everywhere. We're just not sending out the 1,800. We're targeting people who specifically want a printed warrant. I am looking for your approval for the Tour de Cure. The American Diabetes Association New England chapter is requesting permission to conduct their cycling event. Both chiefs are in approval and will support this event. Around 500 people will be coming through the town on bikes. Sunday, August 18th, 2024.
I have to
You
say
want this
that-
motion
Yeah,
right
do
now?
it now.
Yes, please.
I move to approve the request of the New England chapter of the American Diabetes Association for use of town roads during the annual Tour de Cure on August 18th, 2024, between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Second. I have to say, this is the most organized thing, the information they give you beforehand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All
That
right,
was
the
unanimous.
DPW trailer sprinkler system, done.
Woo-hoo! Right.
We did it. Total diligence by the MFC. Jim Hall was a rock star, and the contractor and designer we had for this were top notch. So it was expensive, but it's done, and we can now use that for its intended purpose.
Hey.
The dog park is back out to bid. The smaller but quaint and nice dog park is out to bid. The Corey Auditorium lighting, our hero over here. So we started contracting with Barbizon this week and contracted with GD to start building the electrical construction design. So based on this final EC design, we'll either hire an in-house electrician or rebid the final design, which will be under what we have gotten for bids so far, we are sure. There is a chance that this project will require additional funding, so we are asking that the select board consider using ARPA to fund this gap. 20 to 40,000.
How much?
It depends on the bids. 20 to 40,000.
20 to 40.
How much ARPA do we have left?
20 to 40.
I don't have that at the tip of my fingers, Will, but
So
having a meeting next Monday, and so I can get that information. Yes, we still.
I'll add a quick note. We've been working a lot with the schools, to their credit, on using that school lunch fund that we've decided to really dig into. They are going to move some of their capital projects that were ARPA funded to this account, which should free up some more ARPA.
Right.
So there's more ARPA coming between my records management and the schools. The schools are going to ask that you support the Corey project with that move, but it's not
Okay.
required.
Well,
Julie and I Julie revamped the Greeno Barn procurement package, and that should go out to bid this week as well. So we think it was an admin error, and we think that project is still going to be fine. We got good bids for our recreational mowing and fertilizing contracts. Michael Hightower won this bid. He's been doing it for a couple years. He's an excellent contractor. He won both bids, and we did a 3-year, so we've locked in 3 years of competitive
oh,
pricing.
good.
Hey, Ryan, on the Greeno, so would that come up, will that be in time for voting at a town meeting this, do we have to vote the Greeno? Because we already voted it. We just have to make sure it comes in under the
200.
We voted.
200, which, okay.
2 bids came in at 200. They just didn't put in the zeros. So we feel confident. And we've paired them up, maybe make them a team. All right, I'm notifying you of several signs. The Concord Community Chest sign will be out there advertising their Millennium Fund campaign, and the Youth Commission will be advertising their events in the Rotary, and the Gleason Public Library is advertising their short story contest, which I plan on winning. Upcoming discussion points. I am not on military leave, and it has been pushed to June due to my old man illness.
Ryan, before you move on, do we have to move, I see this other motion about the National Brain Tumor Society ride.
Yes, if you want to
You want a motion on that?
take
Okay.
that on.
Is
Yep.
this the time?
Sure.
Right. I would move that we approve the request of the National Brain Tumor Society ride for use of town roads for their annual bike ride on May 19th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
All right, budget discussions. April 9th will be your last chance to make any recommendations you want on the warrant. Of course, you can put on the warrant that you'll make recommendations at town meeting, and we just have to print it, so April 9th is the last day to sign it. April 23rd, that would be your last chance to make those recommendations, or your last meeting before the town meeting. There's also be a budget hearing. Do we have a date for that, Lynn?
Oh,
Yeah, April 17th, but I think we can keep it to April 17th. I haven't formally posted it yet, but that's where we're at. So I will confirm on Tuesday. How's that? Is that okay?
Yep, so we'll build it.
We've got a placeholder for April 17th.
That'll be the dry run of the budget presentation for town meeting. All right, ESC is coming to town next April 2nd, which is your next meeting.
it's the time to,
They will be talking about their work plan and their climate leader presentation. You have a full hour to talk with them, and that'll lead into your goals discussion. So I plan on giving you a quick report on my goals, where I have hit and where I've come short. And we are suggesting, and I'll send this out again, that you review the select board goals and have comments ready for the goals discussion on April 2nd to make that a productive session. So where you think you have succeeded as a board and where you've fallen short, I think each person laying that out would be a very productive session.
I'm sorry, April
Can I-
2nd? That's
Yeah.
next Tuesday?
Next
That's a week from tonight, right?
We added that.
we added it.
I can't be there.
Well, now I'm not going.
Well, poo on you. Okay. Well, but Nathan, regardless, if you could write us, give us some written input about how you feel we did with the goals, that would be really helpful. We would,
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I think it would be, if the rest of us are willing, I know it would need to be done by the end of this week, but I think it would be helpful if we each took the select board goals as well as the TA goals, but did our own short review and notes on it, and provided that to the town administrator so it could go out in the packet at the end of this week, so that it gets
It's gotta be done
us.
by Thursday.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
won't make that deadline.
I won't either.
I can tell you that right now. Those of us with day jobs, I don't think will make it.
okay.
Well, we typically send the packet out on Fridays. I don't know if that's doable, or even by Monday. I just, I've talked about this before. I think
That's where I'm supposed to be.
the more we think through things in advance of the meeting, and the more that we are able to,
I don't disagree.
I mean, because we did talk about this 2 weeks.
What is it you're looking for?
Well,
Tell me specifically what you want.
Well, I'll just take myself for an example. So I'm going through the sustainability goal. I think we look to the ESC to provide us with their update, right? Because
Right,
it's
yeah.
really
No, I know,
them.
yeah.
But the others, I'd look at the, financial
So is
financial
this a grading? Oh,
sustainability?
you don't need to go like,
You're looking-
I didn't mean that way. I meant maybe more, one level up from that granularity. Do you want us to grade what we did, or you want us to
Yeah,
talk about what
I
we
think
want to do?
I think we look at what we said we were going to do, what our goals were, and okay,
Yeah.
how'd we do on it, right? Your analysis of what we actually got done, and then as a
And then,
second part
okay.
of that, what should we now be doing going forward?
And so then that would be curated by Gretchen or Ryan into a table, or what's the
Or
word?
no, or maybe even just our comments are
just-
sent out to everybody as they are in the packet, so we can each see what the other people
Everyone
said.
said, so we don't spend time
Yeah, so-
doing it at the meeting.
Yeah, yeah. So we can focus on the things where we're all in agreement, or the things where we're,
And if we, all right, and if we don't meet the deadline, we cannot circulate it.
No, we can't.
We can't circulate it in advance. We have to only bring, our only choice is,
You can send it to Ryan.
right.
right,
Send
but
it to
You can't
Ryan.
circulate it to each other and then.
no, but you could, I mean, we could do the pre-read, let me just ask. Gretchen sends us stuff all the time that's like late-breaking news, and we read it, right?
Right.
So why can't we just get it to Gretchen by the end of the weekend, and she can
Send it
push out, and we can read it?
That's the
On
earliest
Monday?
I would be able to do it. and
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
try to call in on Tuesday. but-
Yeah, so, and then, I mean, the only drawback is, it's not in the packet, but eventually it will be in the packet, right?
Yes,
So,
Right.
and we're not soliciting public input specifically on our goals, right?
Right.
So I don't see why we need to make the packet deadline.
Does that work for folks? If we said by the end of the weekend, and then Gretchen could send something out to people on Monday?
Well, you have it or you don't. I mean,
Well, right.
Can only
I
try.
want to try, but to that end, I have some really busy things coming up, and I was wondering, can you send tomorrow the information that exactly you want me to?
Are you looking
make
at
it-
me?
Yeah, well, you
Of
brought this
course.
up, Artie,
Yeah.
and we can have the TA or what, but
Yeah,
just,
I
you
agree
know,
with
the exact documents you want me to look at, because rather than hunting through.
I know,
it's
I'm with you,
just
I'm with
so
you.
Easy
Okay.
to say, this is what you want me to do, and I'll do it.
right,
But
right.
So we, at that meeting, we'll meet tomorrow, and I'll send it out tomorrow.
I can't meet tomorrow.
Cake night.
We'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
It'll be to you tomorrow.
Well,
No,
it's
no, no,
very
no.
easy.
I know, I have it on my desk, so
Yeah.
it's not a
Come
problem.
on, folks, we can do this.
Okay.
I know you can
this.
do it.
Right.
Okay.
And then-
I didn't know about
and
the
then I
Tuesday
guess-
day,
and-
so
Right, I don't know how that happened, but,
I wasn't at the last.
Yeah,
As
we
a
were-
related thing, what we, and it's Christina, if Christina's still there, talking about the ESC goals, because our goals are, you know, we have ESC goals that we ask the ESC to take responsibility for. So we're going to want to be reviewing those and getting their report on how they
Barney already
did
said,
it
we got,
on those, right?
yeah, asking for ESC to
Yes,
provide us
to
with
us.
a review that hopefully we get in advance.
Right.
I would just
them.
say, in the future, if there's like a special meeting or a special need, when that meeting is decided, any input like this needed should be said at the same time, because we've lost a week, right?
Well, I think we did actually when we set this meeting, because it was, we did, and I think Christina knows about it already, so.
Hi, may I confirm? Yes, I've already sent in a sort of state of the ESC report, which includes where we stand in relation to your goals and what our goals are as well. So that's already submitted.
Okay, great, thanks, Christina.
Thank
To
you.
your point, you could do a better job.
And one other,
You and everyone knows.
one other thing I think would be helpful, Ryan, if you're comfortable with this in terms of your goals. I know yours did not include this specifically, but I think it'd be really worthwhile to hear from you about the implementation of the staff evaluations that we discussed last year and implementing for this year, and not specifics about specific people, but just where are you in that process? How many department heads have had those evaluations? How many have done them with their staff? Are we on track for being able to use those, how people have done meeting their goals by the end of this fiscal year as a way to decide whether or not people are getting those merit raises? I think that would be a worthwhile thing to hear from you about, too.
Excellent. Two more, I will do that.
Thank you.
Two more updates and things for you to think about. So the fire station conceptual design is going to come back to you pretty quickly. Not your meeting on the 2nd or the 9th, but the 23rd, but still thinking about ways to make sure that you're communicating to potential designers what you want their design to look like prior to them submitting bids will make it more successful. So this could include total cost. It could include any considerations that you want in terms of modular, stick, whatever. All of those things put into the RFQ makes it very clear and signals to people that that's what you want, and then the designer selection committee can pick that person. So that's what that discussion's about. Nothing really new except your final thoughts on the goals. And then road maintenance plan. So Jim, Julie, and I met with Nitch to discuss the road surface plan. You will get a 2-year plan. It is based off your feedback from that. It is based off the equity roads, as we talked about, and then the $500,000 investment. Then you will get, after, a more expanded plan sometime this summer, so 5 to 10 years rather than just the 2. But we want to put the 2 out to bid and then talk about the longer term plan and then roll that into the capital plan as a more real number than the 300 we're carrying right now. Because I hear you that 500 is the target. And then that's a lot coming to you.
Yeah.
So for staff recognition, I do want to recognize, I know she works for me directly, but Gretchen, so she does a lot, she does a lot, but I just want to talk about what she's done lately So Aubrey and I were both scheduled to be out of the office, so Gretchen took a lot of additional responsibilities and training. Turns out that I was here, which is probably more of a hindrance to her, but she took on a lot, serving as the office point person. She also balanced additional duties recently with the CPC, the MFC, and the TMSC, and she's handling literally hundreds of transfer station sticker purchases. Hundreds of people come in to buy these, which we want, but she's taken those all on individually, also with the senior worker. She never complains when my schedule adjusted. She just keeps adding to her workload. She communicates, she cares. She calls me old sometimes, that's fine. And much of the town has literally been running on Gretchen's shoulders lately. So if she wants to be a town administrator someday, I think she definitely could be. She probably could be now. So we'll just keep her as long as we've got her and appreciate her for what she does.
Very good.
Some
Thank you.
dates of interest coming up. March 29th is the election caucus.
Friday.
That's Friday.
It's Friday.
The special meeting on April 2nd. Aubrey will be in the office next week, which is a point of interest. You have your 2 regular meetings. I am out of state, April 12th to the 19th, but I will be able to communicate and probably watching the public budget hearing from a Winnebago. And then the annual town meeting is May 13th. May 29th is the town election, and then that rescheduled military leave is June 8th to the 22nd. So good timing for the town, bad timing to be in El Paso. So it takes a little bit of stress off. And the
Okay.
draft agenda, we just discussed. So climate
Yeah.
leader and ESC, and then select board and TA goals. Your entire agenda on the 9th will be about recommending, approving, or not the warrant to make sure that that is final and signed that night. So that should be
Yes.
basically the only item.
Great.
Right.
Thank you.
We have one set of minutes that needs to be finished up.
That was the one that was sent separately, right?
Yes.
Right.
I thought it was an improvement, personally. It was the March-
Minutes from the 27th of.
February 27th.
Yep, right.
Barney, you want to make that motion,
Yeah,
since you're the one
Sure.
that,
I move that we approve the minutes for the Select Board meeting on February 27th, 2024, as written in the email we received from Gretchen Galmore yesterday.
yesterday. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
So I have one minor thing. So in this community input section, read, warn each commentator when their time was up, et cetera, commentators continue to speak. They were warned again. When they continue to interrupt, the board placed them in the virtual waiting room. But is it not the case that we put everybody in the virtual? We did not. We only put them in.
The
Okay.
disruptive.
The disruptive people.
Okay, that's right. Okay. All right, then I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's it.
Okay,
All right, any liaison reports?
I do, brief.
Okay.
So we met again, the town meeting task
Oh,
force.
yeah.
So we had good, yeah, it's going great. So we got a lot of good ideas. I think I mentioned last time, we're sort of bucketing things. Right now, we're kind of focused on this town meeting and things we can do in this town meeting, and then in the summer, we'll take on the longer term things. So on the short term stuff, a couple of things to note. One is, and I'll say it to everybody publicly, but certainly to you guys, outreach to your whole circle. Show up to, we need to drum up more interest. One of the things that's related to that, we mentioned, which is having, I don't know if it's a hearing or maybe it's a focal group to explain the issues that we're covering. One of the ideas, and again, I need to be refreshed on what the rules are, but sandwich boards or other signs, we're going to make signs that's not just the QR code, which you certainly can take a picture of the QR code and you get the warrant article, but the warrant article presents pretty dryly. Like bullet points, these are the things town meeting's going to cover. Like, to, like the police station, right? We're going to discuss the police station, like, to try to get people to understand what it is we're,
Sort of a briefing document.
well, not even so much as a document, like a poster, just says bullet
I
points,
see.
like
Gotcha,
around
gotcha,
town.
Gotcha.
So we got to work on getting, I mean, we have them, and I guess we go through the same approval process, right? Can we post them, like at the transfer
You
station?
don't need approval for that.
Okay, only at the Rotary you need approval.
Of course, at the
At
Rotary.
the school's
can't
going
put
to.
Too much information on it, because people
No,
have.
no, it's not a complicated thing. Well, the Rotary's probably a bad example.
Yeah. Put
up
Transfer
at school.
stations, schools, ferns, library,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
that's-
places, we'll figure out where to place them.
Right.
A couple of people have volunteered actually to do these little snippets of, they're like a TikTok video, really. One is, I think Mark agreed, he's not here now, but he was gonna do, or Lynn's gonna do, like explaining the budget process, like a 1-minute clip,
Cool.
and just post it on social media. And there's a few other of those that Deepa's gonna do one on, I forget something, but just things, she's relating her experience in generating interest in the playground, right? Things they worked on. And all the people that are younger than us, which is most of the people, have much more access to those interesting technologies. So I think it's going to be pretty good to start some of that.
Good.
My idea, which I have to check in with Betsy on, but I would like to, just as like, and I may have mentioned this last time, just like the mosquito thanks its donors in a full-page ad, just thank all the people, like have the list of attendees of town meeting after and just thank them, just have a list. Sort of public shaming in a little way, but,
Reverse.
yeah, reverse
The
shaming.
left-handed cop.
Yeah, right.
Left-handed
So,
shaming or
but
whatever.
one of the things, and then this is a chart that I think Deepa or somebody's going to put out. Given that we only get 5% attendance, if you don't go, you are ceding your vote to 19 people are ceding their vote to the one who decides to go.
Yes.
And by not going, you are ceding your vote. We are and this is a message maybe you can promulgate through your own channels. We are effectively a one-day legislature. That's what town meeting is. We are the legislature of the town for that day. And if you don't go, you're not part of the legislature. You're ceding that control to somebody else, not of your choosing. It's not like
Right. It's not
like the representative one where you choose who's going.
Right.
Whoever shows up, they get 20 votes. They bring 20 votes with them to vote the way they want to vote. So, anyway.
Yeah, that's a very good
Yeah,
point.
right.
And that actually is one that should be.
So, well, that's something we are gonna, yeah,
Like a little
yeah.
press release.
Yeah, I think, Cynthia, were you in our meeting, Cynthia? Are you there?
No, I wasn't. Sorry.
Somebody, I thought there was somebody from the paper. Okay.
Okay,
Anyway, that's what I got. Thanks.
great. Excellent.
Good.
Anybody else? All right. Community input. There's nobody in the room, so anybody online who would like to have the last word?
Nah, Kate, I'm good. Thank you. Alan's here, though. He's on the police station renovation committee. I don't know if he sat through the discussion we had earlier. You could ask him. He's not chair or vice chair, so he can't speak for the committee, but he can speak for himself.
Yeah.
What is
Thanks,
he talking
Alan.
about? Alan.
Yeah, I wanted to know about cost, and we're going to get that. We have a meeting next week, and that information is supposed to be available to us at that time, and not much before that, unfortunately.
Great. Glad you're on that, Alan. Thanks. Okay, anybody else? All right, I'm ready for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, vote with aye.
Aye. Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, aye.